Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning, sir. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fine. And I would like to join through mobile phone also. So if I can be sent on WhatsApp this link.
Sure, sir.
You have my number?
I will, yes, sorry, if you can please help us.
Good morning.
Hello.
Uh, it goes. Children's join. You just let me know once it is shared. And Sri, you can also put the background. I think you can put the background for our virtual background, right?
Okay, fine. Fine. Let
Right.
me set that thing.
In this, there's a
Fine.
change virtual background option.
I'll just do it.
Yeah, I'll also do it.
हेलो
जी
हाँ
सर जी सीमेंट तो है नहीं अपने पास
अच्छा
तीसरी पर हूँ
है
मैं तीसरी फ्लोर पर हूँ ऊपर सीमेंट है नहीं अपने पास
अभी
नहीं
तुम
कल नहीं चाहिए था
ये तुम्हें
Aspia, can we do it mirror? Do you have idea?
Sir, how, one second.
I'm applying it. I think the background is looking reverse, right? Just have a check. Right, apply. But mirror.
सुनो रास्ते से एक बोरी सीमेंट उठा के ले आना और ये सुबाई में ना सुबेदार महापात्रा या वो लड़के हाँ वहाँ पे सारी एप्लीकेशन देनी कर्नल पाठक की वो अपने आप ले लेंगे
जी सर
इसके अंदर एक एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म है एक बायोडेटा है ठीक है ये
Here the description.
12 बजे से पहले पहले जानी होगी
ये तो मैं अभी पहले
हाँ
सिक्योरिटी
और
है
आते हुए ना
हाँ जी
उसी किसी मार्केट से उठा के ले आना
एक तसला चाहिए वो 50 केजी के बैग क्या करनी समझ
अभी बहुत काम निकलेगा यार तुम जाओ हाँ
फिर फिस्टा में जाऊंगा
हाँ ले जाओ ठीक है
और इनोवा की चाबी मैं नीचे सिक्योरिटी गार्ड को रेड वाली की और उसकी वहीं दे देता हूं
नहीं
ऊपर आप टेबल पे रखूंगा
नहीं वो मेम साहब को दे दो
हाँ जी मतलब
हाँ
फर्स्ट फ्लोर पर आकर
पैसे हैं तुम्हारे पास
तब पैसे नहीं है दे दीजिए मेरे को मैं तो लेके आ गया हूं
मेम साहब से
जी मैं जी
Hello, welcome all the participants. I hope the participants are joining, and we are also live on the YouTube channel of IGBC. Hello, Aspia, can you hear me?
Yes, Saurav, I can hear. If you can make it a
If
screen.
I play, can you just confirm whether it is
Yes.
playing? Is it playing?
It's playing, but I do not hear audio.
Okay, I think I have to play with system audio. I'll just stop again. I'll share with system audio.
Here.
Aspia, is it clear?
Yes, Saurabh, it's clear. Audio is also clear.
how many participants have joined the webinar? So
Hello. Right. Right.
he's our principal. Yeah. So he told me we are planning to come for Chandigarh study tour. Welcome, Mr. Ajit Kumar Gupta. Welcome, Bindal sir.
Okay.
Good
Morning, Mr. Saurabh, Dr. Saurabh.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning to all the participants. I hope I'm audible also. Good morning, Mr. Pradhan, Mr. Prashant.
Hi.
Yeah, I think we can start in next 1 minute. We are already live since last 10 minutes on YouTube as well, which we'll also share with the link with the speakers also. You can also share with your friends. And look forward to a great session today and the subject of incentive development. My colleague Aspia is there. She can introduce herself also to the gathering here today and start the session. Aspia, Aspia, just start in next 1 minute so that we can see some more participants joining.
Sure, I'll do that.
The good news is that registrations have gone to the extent of 700 plus. Both the days, around 350 plus participants have agreed to discuss on this topic of green hill habitat and the hill centric development. So that is great that India is now all set to discuss this subject. Though some work has been done with the support of the key stakeholders like you who are part of the technical committees and since 15, 16, 17 and 18 we came up with the green hill habitat rating system also. Presently a lot of work is going on pan India on this subject. I can hear every day there is a lot of webinars and gatherings and discussions going on the policies related to hill development. Over to you, Aspia. You can start the session. I think we have now 41 participants presently, but it will keep on rising as we proceed.
Sure, Shalom. It's about 11:04, so let's start the session. Good morning, everybody. My name is Asfia. I'm an associate counselor at CI IGBC. It is my honor to welcome all the eminent speakers and delegates to the IGBC Green Hill Habitat webinar series on the green and resilient Himachal Pradesh. Hill-centric development is the key. So today we embark our journey to explore the vital role that hill ecosystems play in the environment and economy of our nation and how they shape our growth and development. Here at IGBC, we are dedicated to promoting hill-centric development in these states through our exclusive framework on green hill habitat, which you all will hear from our speakers in the following session. Today, as part of the World Green Building Week, held annually from September 11th to 15th, which is a global initiative uniting communities to accelerate the transition towards energy efficient, sustainable building practices. The webinar is a part of the World Green Building Week activities seeking to unite all the stakeholders of the ecosystem, including government, architects, developers, academia, industry, environmentalists, and local communities, and of course, various other stakeholders. Today, we share an insight, experience, and ideas to build more resilient Himachal Pradesh and envision a policy-driven model for greening hill station across India. So let's join hand to collaborate this endeavor as we explore the path of greener, more sustainable, and a resilient future for Himachal Pradesh. Once again, I thank all the participants for essentially joining this conversation here. Today, we have two eminent leaders with us, Colonel Shailesh Pathak, and Major General Manoj Kumar Vigdal. It's my honor to introduce both the speakers to you today. Colonel Shailesh Pathak is an army veteran and an experienced glass and fenestration expert. He's a science graduate from Delhi University and has done business management from IIM Lucknow. He's currently placed as a chairman of IGBC Chandigarh chapter and past chairman of CI Himachal State Council. He's an experienced photographer and an adventurer and motivational speaker. Sir, I welcome you to the session and would request you to give the welcome address to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Apsya. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Good morning, everybody. Uh, Welcome to this Green Habitat webinar. This is a series where we will be focusing on sustainable and resilient Himachal Pradesh. The IGBC, being a founding member of World Green Building Council since 2004, we are glad to celebrate this year's World Green Building Council week from 11 to 15 September with the theme of building the transition. In this, we'll be doing calling global building and construction sectors to accelerate the transition to secure and energy efficient, regenerative, and just future for all. Friend, let me extend sincere thanks to the support of committed stakeholders like you. India is in the top three countries in the world in terms of largest registered green building footprint. We have approximately 11,050 projects, which amounts to 10.27 billion square feet of registered footprint. A word about IGBC, it's a very uh, wholesome rating system. We have nearly 31 rating system and which includes hill habitat rating system also. And all these rating systems are aligned with national priorities and Indian climate. When we talk about hills, as then they are natural biosphere reserves, they have special significance in terms of environment and economy of any country and have critical role and importance in their growth and development. Though hill states comprises only 10% of the total population of India, but vast majority of nation's population living nearby is depends on the resources of hill states, whether directly or indirectly. The hill district constitutes 21.53% of geographical area in the country. They cover 41% of the total forest cover in the country, and they have a role to play in socio-economic development. Of plain as well as hill state. So hill states are very rich in natural resources like forest, hydropower, minerals, horticulture products, and valuable herbs and medicinal plants. When we talk about hills, the National Building Code, they defines any area which is above 600-meter above mean sea level and have a slope, average slope of more than 30 degree. It constitutes as a hill state or a hilly area. A word about hilly areas are they're really sensitive and have a fragile ecosystem. One of the solutions to preserve our hill state is by introducing the concept of green cities in hilly cities. Green cities address social, economic, and environmental aspects of habitat. IGBC Green Habitat Rating System, developed with the support of national expert in 2018, with the intention of hill-centric development of our hill cities. Considering that the several aspects need to be addressed differently as compared to the cities in the plains. The plains have a different requirement, hills have a different requirement. Our hill habitat rating system of IGBC handles all these parameters, and we will be discussing in due course of time. It will be amply clear. Hill cities have a sensitive ecosystem consisting of mountains, rivers, valleys, and some of even have an extreme weather like glaciated areas, jungle areas. Hill cities have a various factors which are affecting them and which necessitate a thrust on adoption of an integrated planning approach for conservation, preservation, and development. There are tremendous benefits in greening of the hill cities in the country. Green hill habitat aspects would offer tangible and intangible gains. If I talk about the tangible benefits which we receive after we make our hill cities greener, first and foremost is reduction in power demand. As we get a higher share of solar, thermal, solar photovoltaic and wind energy. We get approximately 10 to 20% of these benefits other than the plain area. Second is reduction in lighting consumption. We have seen it is approximately 25 to 30% reduction in spending the conventional energy on lighting. When we talk about water consumption is about similar 15 to 20%. Handling of solid waste management is 100% segregation is required for hills as the land mass is limited. If we increase the use of urban transport, we can save 8 to 10% of energy. The next tangible benefit is to use treated wastewater for city application, and this way we'll be able to save 8 to 10% energy. If I talk about the intangible gains, intangible immeasurable gains are immense. So restoration of forest biodiversity, increase in the city landscape cover, conservation of watershed areas, preparedness for climate and disasters. Just very recently, we have seen a disaster in our state, and I don't know media why it has not enhanced or shown it the true face. It was a very serious, and still the state is suffering very badly. Roads have been destroyed, houses have been destroyed. So, if we adopt green building or a green hill habitat suggestions, we'll be able to reduce these damages to the considerable amount. Another intangible is climate adaptive design and construction. The construction which we do in plains is not clearly suitable for the hilly areas. Provision of more public convenience, citizen engagement through city e-portals, better parking management, reduce resource consumption, enhanced quality of life, and attract environmental conscious investor to the city. So these are few intangible benefits, and I really appreciate that we have having this seminar today and tomorrow. So we will make this whole world better by our these kind of efforts. So thank you very much for a wonderful initiative. I welcome all the speakers and participants to this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your warm welcome. Uh, Thank you once again, sir. privileged to introduce Mr. Major General Manoj Kumar Vindal. He's a former Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management of Homes Affairs, Government of India, with about 36 years of experience in strategic assessment and planning, policy development and implementation, advisory services, personal and project management, investigation, security risk. He's a key policymaker for the United Nations peacemaking development and conceptualizing and conduct of training for UN peacemakers in India and abroad. He has led the global HR function and driven talent management strategies to help create high performing team across various roles. So it's my privilege to welcome you to give us the theme address, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Asfia. Good morning to everyone, and a special thanks to uh, IGBC Green Hill Habitat, which is part of the World Green Building Initiative for a Sustainable and Resilient Himachal Pradesh. So I congratulate Dr. Saurabh Chaudhary, who's the counselor, Green Hill Habitat, who contacted me and invited me to give a talk. And I also must thank Shailesh Pathak, chairman, the Chandigarh chapter of IGBC, for giving a very detailed and very specific, to the point recommendations of what should be done. And that is how I think next 2 days, if that model is followed and by every speaker, what Colonel Shailesh Pathak just gave, I think we'll come out with a very good report with tangible outcomes, which are implementable, and which, if given with examples of best practices, will, I think, go a long way in paving green and resilient hill area in the areas where IGBC is working upon, and for others to emulate. So today what I am going to do is I will be covering this topic from the disaster lens perspective. So I will start with firstly the ecosystem-based approach to disaster risk reduction and resilience, then go on to touch upon landslides, because that is a major disaster in the hilly areas. Also talk about the coping capacities of the communities, the touch upon the disaster risk governance, because without an organization we cannot function. And then snow and avalanche is also a big hazard, but it is restricted to specific areas. And also touch upon why we require standardized databases for this. And lastly, I will also cover and with community preparedness initiatives and why it is required. So the ecosystem-based approach to disaster risk reduction and resilience, it is a measure to reduce disaster by utilizing the ecosystem. In the past few years, there has been some major policies advancements that not only provide opportunities to scale up the ecosystem-based approaches for DRR, but they also facilitate the uptake of integrated approach for conservation of ecosystem. 2017 Global Risk Assessment is a clear reminder that environmental risks are a priority challenge worldwide, with extreme weather events like natural disasters and failure of mitigation and adaptation to climate change, weather events like natural disasters and others, they are become among the top global risk to societies and economies in terms of likelihood and possible impacts. So we need to raise awareness of the role of ecosystem and DRR and promote innovative natural resource management approaches. Ecosystem-based DRR is the sustainable management, conservation, and restoration of ecosystem to provide services that reduce disaster risk by mitigating hazards and by increasing the likelihood resilience. Ecosystem and DRR are very closely related, and we must consider them in vertically in a separate verticals also, as well as cross-linking points also. So the impact of the disaster, whether it is natural or man-made, has an impact on the environment as well, more than the human. And also, when this affects the environment, the environmental conditions may exacerbate the impact of the disaster, and vice versa, like deforestation, forest management practices, agricultural systems. They can exacerbate negative environmental impact over hazards like storms, cyclones, landslides, flooding, ground and surface water contaminations, and so many other things. So human well-being, it depends on ecosystems that provide multiple legally good benefits. And they also increase the resilience of vulnerable people to recover from disasters resulting from various hazards. Landslides we know are major hydrogeological hazards which affects a large part of India, from the mighty Himalayan range in the north to the coastal areas of the south. 0.42 million square kilometers of our nation's land area, that is 12.6% of total area, is vulnerable to landslide hazards, and these vulnerable areas are spread over 19 states and 4 union territories. Many factors contribute to the instability of the slopes, and these includes high relief, drainage, bedrock, regolith, vegetation, climate, earthquake, paleo features, and man-made conditions. We have a list of speakers in this next session to follow who are expert in these techniques, how we can uh, take care of mitigation measures against landslides. And they'll be giving us very good best practices also, because I've heard them earlier, and I really thank Dr. Saurav for bringing them all together on this platform. Bioengineering, we know, can provide an effective means of treating problem sites. It is the use of living plants material to perform some engineering functions, whether it is simple erosion control. Like we know, vetiver grass is one such plant material. So with grass and legume seeding, or more complex slope stabilization with willows and other plants. So we have different types of approaches where government is focusing based on our own interest in terms of development, state-wise, economics, environment, or other kinds of issues, are related issues and challenges, which is state-specific. However, the number of different entities which are interdependent and interlinked with each other, they have to be taken care for mutual interest and a sustainable, safer development. Coping capacities of community is very, very important, because communities should be aware and informed and prepared. Then the community is better able to cope in response to disaster situation than otherwise. Capacity is at the core of the development of disaster management. The capacity to manage disaster risks and emergencies requires knowledge, skills, resources, motivation, and a particular attitude and mindset at different levels along all the sectors. Such programs being held by different organizations help in creating the lifting of the building of the coping capacities of the communities. So capacity development also focuses on understanding the obstacles that integrate people or the government or the international organizations or the NGOs from realizing their goals. But while at the same time, they are enhancing their abilities that will allow them to achieve measurable and sustainable results. When considering any development related project in health, we really need to think ecology inclusive economy package. Unlike earthquakes and tsunamis, landslides are predictable, preventable, and controllable. So there is a need to strengthen, amplify, and accelerate the pace of scientific studies on the occurrence, distribution processes, frequency, and impact of the landslides. Hill area disaster management should have a separate policy and plans, knowing the sensitivity of the hill region to various hazards. And foresters and forest department should also be involved into all types of disaster management decisions, especially for the hill areas. It's a governance issue. So it is very important to know the type of risk, different vulnerability, and the different response system to do a different for a different hazard. So Disaster Management Authority needs support for successful preparedness strategy and combination of all types of stakeholders, from private to local organizations and even community level, with the leverage of right technology, will surely enhance communication and better preparedness. Snow and avalanche is a very big major hazard in the mountains. It is affected to some areas, and it during winters and especially during the melting of the snow, once the January, February, March, it becomes very, very prominent. So the aim is to envision and improve the administrative response, which brings together the relevant scientific, engineering, construction, planning, and policy capabilities of the nation to eliminate losses from snow avalanches and other ground failure hazards. So it is very important to define the role of locals in a national level body in combating any hazard. Standardized databases, which are created at national level in a unified manner, can be used for risk mapping. Himachal Pradesh has already prepared atlases and has already has made the disaster management plan and is very, very active. And as far as the disaster management database, disaster preparedness, disaster risk reduction is considered. And hence the need is to categorize the data that is already there or going to be collected in a systematic manner, and such categorization should be uniform so that state collaboration for risk mapping, especially for geographical features for mountains and the rivers and the slopes, is continuous. And this is, I think, the NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, and National Institute of Disaster Management is already in the process of documenting. Some documentation has been done by National Institute of Disaster Management, and more is in process. And availability of such maps to the public for last mile connectivity is very important. There should be no hoarding of data. It should be readily accessible so that anyone who has a doubt can themselves check and be better prepared. And lastly, I will talk about the community's role. Community is always the first responder to any disaster. They're familiar with local coping mechanisms, which can be further improved through pressure groups and advocacy. So a family disaster management plan consisting of some principal steps for various types of hazards needs to be planned, and adequate documentation needs to be provided to them in terms of booklets, ready to read, ready to understand booklets with diagrammatic representations, so that each family starts preparing their own family disaster plan. An effort should be on implementation of policies, strategies of the government, and formulation of plans, and this should be facilitated by the stakeholders, the NGOs, the self-help groups, the community-based organizations are to be taken on board, and they have to be, there should be a cooperation among the state authorities and the non-state actors, non-governmental organizations, because non-governmental organizations have a very good last mile connectivity, which can increase the district administration's reach to the last or nearly the last man on the ground. And early receipt, dissemination of warning, emergency kits at village, identification and plan of action for the risk growth, stockpiling of some emergency materials, they all can be worked upon by having coordination amongst the various stakeholders so that there is no wastage of effort. So I have covered a few points. There are many points to cover. But when I read the list of speakers who are to follow, I have removed a lot of my points which are going to be covered by them in detail, because I have heard each one of them number of times in various forums, and I know what they're likely to cover. And I wish IGBC the very best of 2 days of learning and awareness program. And I will be looking forward to the document that will come out from this, which I'm very sure will go a long way in improving or helping to make policy changes in the area. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the inspiring address and setting the platform for everybody. As you rightly mentioned, that there is a natural disaster, climate events, and a lot of global risk that's happening, and there's a need and how the city should become resilient. So on this note, we would like to start a technical session, and the speakers here with us sharing their experience and knowledge in vast areas from planning, designing, executing of hill ecosystem. During our session, we kindly request all the speakers to limit their presentation for 20 minutes each. And participants, please feel free to engage by typing your questions in the chat box, specifying the intended recipient. And at the conclusion, we might take up all the questions in form of a comprehensive discussion. So I take the privilege of introducing our first speaker. Professor Jeet Kumar Gupta. He has more than 53 years of professional experience in architecture education, urban planning, policy planning, capacity building, urban legislation, green building, smart city, urban laws, urban mission, rural planning, etc. He's a trustee of IIA, senior fellow IGBC, fellow IIA, fellow ITPI, and has been the founding director of College of Architecture, and much more. He has authored about 18 books, over 350 technical papers related to architecture education, affordable housing, land, heritage, Chandigarh, Amritsar, sustainable cities, urban planning, and SDG 11. He's also been awarded as the Madhav Ackwell Gold Medal for lifetime contribution of architecture education by IIA, medal for standing first in the university in MCRP and Gandhian studies. Currently, he's the member state transport committee, Chandigarh UT, and advisor review of the master plan Jammu 2030. I welcome you, sir, and would request you to take forward the presentation explaining about planning for hill ecosystem. Thank you.
Presentation right has been given to you, sir. You can press the share button and share from your system.
Yes,
Right. Is it visible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
it's visible. You can make it full screen. Yeah. Just go
Right.
ahead, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it okay, sir?
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you, Saurabh, and thank you, Isma, for introducing me and giving me this opportunity. And let me, also just explain that hill areas remain difficult, distinct, and they require a different kind of approach, understanding, and a knowledge to deal their problems of planning and development. I'm thankful to Colonel Salesh Pathak and Major General Bindal for setting the tone for this entire context of planning the hill areas in the context of the recent disaster which we had, But let me also make it a point, that India lacks capacity and capability in terms of technical manpower and resources because we do not have any dedicated course which is taking care of the planning of hill areas and construction and designing of building in the hill areas, despite the fact, India has 1/5 of the land mass under hill areas and housing more than 10% of the population. So first and foremost thing I would like to say and emphasize that India needs to have a capacity, not capacity of states, but the capacity in terms of the technical manpower and resources so that they are able to understand the complexity of planning, development, and designing of building and hill areas so that these disasters, which are becoming more frequent, could be avoided. Let me start with, hill areas are known for dualities and contradictions. They have a lot of positivity because they are known to be, they are higher in elevation. They have all the, wonderful climatic environment and ecology. They have a wonderful biodiversity and culture. They are basically natural biosphere. They are resources for mineral wealth, flora and fauna, and they are the one, who provide water to the nations in all the destination. They remain a preferred destination for tourists, and they have a rich cultural heritage. So, but despite these advantages, they also suffering because this all these God gifts are very fragile, and once they are subjected to man-made intervention, and that too in a unscientific and irrational manner, we face a lot of problem. And that's the reason why hill areas are basically prone to lot of natural and man-made disaster. There of course remains a limitation of land, but I don't call it a limitation of land because you take a horizontal and they're all vertical. The land gets multiplied, but the land for human habitation and utilization remain minimal. So therefore, I think we have to understand the context of history, geography, length and breadth and depth of the structure of the hill areas. And that's what we have to evolve our strategies. Hill areas are facing a lot of problem of congestion, unplanned and haphazard development. There is unregulated and uncontrolled tourism, problem of mobility, infrastructure and disasters. And that's what it calls for, that we need to look hill areas more realistically, rationally, objectively. And that's what, I will draw your attention to 1972 Stockholm Conference, where they first time realized that it is not only the plain areas, but also the hill areas which require awareness on the part of policy planners, so that they look at the deteriorating environment quality in hill areas, its adverse impact on the growth and development, and they invited and they all called upon all nations, please look holistically at the hill area development to make it more rational and sustainable development. Hill area development remains very, very important. For the reason, if you want to conserve, preserve, and make value addition to resources, if you want hill areas to be more productive, happy, and healthy places to live in, if you want hill areas to be safe from disaster, if you want to minimize flooding and change in agricultural climatic condition, and if you want to make India 5 trillion economy, there cannot be exception, unless you are caring for the hill areas. And I can tell you that achieving the sustainable development goals mandated by in terms of 17 SDG of minimizing global warming and reducing carbon footprints cannot be achieved and made a reality unless you involve the hill areas. So look at the physical distribution of hill areas, and they're all distributed over the country itself. And look at in the northeast where they're concentrated. You can find on the northwest, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal, and Uttaranchal, whereas on the northeast are the 8 states, and in between they're intersected by Nepal and Bhutan, and therefore this is the northern areas, which is basically the concentration of hill areas. Let me look at the issues. Issue remains in terms of land, unregulated and haphazard development. There's a problem of unsustainable built environment. There's misuse and abuse of resources. There is a problem of landslide erosion, infrastructure and services, and you know the issues of accessibility. There is unplanned and haphazard urban development. There is uncontrolled tourism. The deforestation has taken place on a larger, and many people are basically rushing to cities. And the change of the entire system of economy is getting just diverted. You can see these are the hill area. What kind of unplanned development is there? Where the nature has planned, we are doing unplanned development. This is how Shimla has grown. This is how the Solan looks at, as Shimla was planned for 25,000 people by British people, it has gone on 1.5 lakh. Look at the disaster which has been, UK suffering. This is where the landslide and hill areas are becoming the order of the day. Landslides, etc. These are the major issues, and flooding, of course, remains common, is becoming more frequent, etc., in the hill areas. But when you look at, holistically, the entire issues, the issue remains in terms of soil, in terms of ecology, in terms of flora and fauna, in terms of scientifically cutting and filling the tree. Unfortunately, when you look at the land, land remains the biggest hiccup, and its use and abuse has been made is a normal process in the process of hill development. I think land needs to look more holistically. If at all this hill area development has to be managed, and I think in hill areas, you find there is a problem of demarcating the land holding. There is a poor record. There is no there is a lot of land speculation going on. So there are no policies and programs with regard to how to manage the land for urban development and the rural development, And this is basically irrational and unscientific subdivision of land, which is leading to a lot of problem in rural and this hill areas. When you look at the hill areas, the second problem is mobility, that is accessibility. And always it is very, very difficult. And unfortunately, we are basing more on road-based mobility. And you can see the way the highways are being created in the this hill areas. I think they have their own implication. There is no problem in promoting mobility and accessibility in the hill area. That's become the lifeline. But when they are done unscientifically, when they are creating without looking at the structure, without looking at the kind of typology and how the roads are to be planned, I think these all kind of things are creating a lot of problem. And the way the roads, I can tell you, the way the roads are being planned, they are emerging the major threat to the hill area development. And you will find all these areas where the whole roads have been created, they are being subjected to large scale landslide. For the reason, all blasting has been done unscientifically. Even the road contour, that the contours of the space has not been looked properly. Even the planning of the roads, that also has gone wrong. So I think that is where
Hello,
we
sir.
have to be very careful and cautious, right?
One second, sir. Gupta sir, Saurav here. Hello.
Hanji.
Sir,
Sorry.
actually, there's a request if we can have a bilingual, including Hindi also during the presentation to some extent, wherever. So the audience can connect more
नो प्रॉब्लम।
from the Himachal Pradesh.
तो ये देखिए हिमाचल प्रदेश में कैसे सड़कों पर कैसे डेवलपमेंट हो रही है। ये टूरिज्म देखिए, ये मंडी के पास, मनाली के पास है, आप देखिए कैसे कितनी व्हीकल्स जा रही हैं। तो ये मतलब दीज आर इश्यूज व्हिच नीड्स टू बी एड्रेस्ड। और उसके बाद देखिए इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रोथ जो है, अभी जो हुआ गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी थी, दे वर इंसेंटिवाइजिंग इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रोथ इन दी हिल एरियाज, लेकिन उसका असर क्या हुआ? जितनी भी फार्मास्यूटिकल इंडस्ट्रीज थी वो सारी हिल एरियाज में चली गई। और हिल एरियाज में आपको पता है फार्मास्यूटिकल इंडस्ट्री इज द मोस्ट पॉल्यूटिंग एंड वाटर इंटेंसिव इंडस्ट्री। और हुआ क्या, दोज इंडस्ट्रीज वर, ये इंडस्ट्री को अलाउ कर दिया गया, लेकिन कोई प्लानिंग नहीं थी, डेवलपमेंट नहीं थी। हिल एरिया वो इंडस्ट्रीज आई, उन्होंने जमीन खरीदी और उन्होंने खरीद के अपने इंडस्ट्री लगा दी, and the lot of industries came in. So they created the issue of ecology, solid waste management, और वहाँ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और सर्विसेज नहीं थी। अगर आप जाके देखेंगे आपको पता लग जाएगा how these policy which were meant for a good job, how they have done crisis in this. So ultimately they have ये जो इंडस्ट्रीज थी, इन्होंने फ्लोरा फौना सब डिस्टर्ब कर दिया। ये बद्दी एरिया है हिमाचल प्रदेश का, देखिए कैसे ये डेवलपमेंट हुई है, कहाँ एग्रीकल्चर बीच में फंसी हुई है, कोई प्लान डेवलपमेंट नहीं है, कोई रोड नेटवर्क नहीं है, इसका मास्टर प्लान ही नहीं बना। और ये देखिए गार्बेज कैसे ये इंडस्ट्री फेंक रही है, और किस तरह का बद्दी जो इतना बढ़िया एरिया था, दैट हैज टोटली बीन डिस्ट्रॉयड बाय अनप्लैन्ड अनऑथराइज्ड इंडस्ट्री। सो मेरे कहने का मतलब यह है कि अगर इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रोथ करनी भी है तो उसको प्लान डेवलपमेंट में लाया जाए और वो इंडस्ट्री लाया जाए जो कि सपोर्टिव, जिसको चाहिए इन्वायरमेंट एंड इकोलॉजी। और हमें वो इंडस्ट्री नहीं चाहिए जो कि लैंड इंटेंसिव इंडस्ट्री होनी चाहिए। हमें वो इंडस्ट्री चाहिए हिल एरिया में, जैसे आपकी ये आईटी इंडस्ट्री है, दिस इज आइडियल फॉर दिस एरिया एंड दे कैन बी ब्रॉट इन, सॉफ्ट स्किल्स कैन बी ब्रॉट इन। आपकी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करनी है तो यहाँ करिए, आपने जो भी लैपटॉप वगैरह करना है, सच काइंड ऑफ इंडस्ट्री। और आपकी जो हिल एरियाज में इतना फ्रूट और फ्लोरा एंड फौना और इतनी मेडिसिनल है, दे कैन ऑल बी यूज फॉर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग वैल्यू एडेड प्रोडक्ट। थर्डली मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, इशू है टूरिज्म की। टूरिज्म जो है, ये सबको पता है कि टूरिज्म इज द बेस्ट फ्रेंड ऑफ इकोनॉमी, एम्प्लॉयमेंट, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, ग्रोथ एंड डेवलपमेंट। लेकिन ये भी समझ लीजिए, टूरिज्म जो है डबल एज्ड वेपन है। जहां आपको ग्रोथ करता है वहां डिस्ट्रॉय भी करता है, क्योंकि टूरिस्ट हैव नो कमिटमेंट टू द एरिया वेयर दे कम, दे आर ओनली कम फॉर एंजॉयमेंट, दे स्पेंड मनी एंड दे डिस्ट्रॉय एवरीथिंग। तो ये देखिए, टूरिज्म जब भी करना है तो टूरिज्म को बड़े ध्यान से करना है। टूरिज्म शुड नॉट डिस्ट्रॉय द एनवायरमेंट एंड इकोलॉजी, दे शुड नॉट क्रिएट प्रॉब्लम ऑफ हैपेजेड एंड अनप्लान्ड डेवलपमेंट। जब देखिए जहां मर्जी ढाबे आगे, सब कुछ आ गया, रोड के रॉन्ग जो है, ये जो आपकी लीनियर डेवलपमेंट है, दे आर ऑल कंट्रीब्यूटेड बाय द दिस टूरिज्म। सो देयरफॉर आई थिंक टूरिज्म जो है बड़े ध्यान से देखना है। और टूरिज्म अनफॉर्चुनेटली हिमाचल प्रदेश में कुछ ही एरिया में कंसंट्रेट हो गया, तो इसीलिए सब जगह, यहाँ मनाली जा रहे हैं, यहाँ शिमला जा रहे हैं, वही जो एरिया है वो डलहौजी वगैरह वही कंसंट्रेटेड है, बाकी स्टेट नहीं है। और यहाँ एरिया का इतना बुरा हाल हो गया, दैट्स व्हाट वी हैव टू लुक इट वेरी केयरफुली। ये शिमला का देखिए, ये माल रोड है, ये देखिए मनाली के एरिया है, तो ये मतलब कहने का है हाउ दिस टूरिज्म इज क्रिएटिंग ए प्रॉब्लम। हेरिटेज, हेरिटेज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रहता है और किसी नेशन और कम्युनिटी के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। और ये देखिए, हेरिटेज जो है हिमाचल में बहुत ज्यादा, एक तो नेचर हेरिटेज क्रिएट करती है, एक ह्यूमन बीइंग बहुत बढ़िया, और यहाँ के लोग दे आर वेरी इनोसेंट काइंड ऑफ पीपल डेडिकेटेड टू गॉड इटसेल्फ, और वो बहुत बढ़िया चीजें बनाते हैं। एंड देयर टेक्नोलॉजीज आर सो गुड, जैसे उनकी धज्जी वाल है और उनकी दूसरी उन्होंने टेक्नोलॉजी निकाली है जो विद हैव स्टूड द टेस्ट ऑफ द टाइम, इवन व्हेन देयर आर other building which have been destroyed, constructed in the modern technology. So therefore heritage जो है, हेरिटेज को बड़े ध्यान से देखना है, उसको आइडेंटिफाई करना है, उसको प्रोटेक्ट करना है, प्रिजर्व करना है। और यहाँ पर आपने शिमला में देखा, इतनी हेरिटेज थी, लेकिन वो डिस्ट्रॉय कैसे से हुई? अभी लैंडस्लाइड में कुछ हुई है, उससे पहले आग लग जाती थी। और बहुत सी बिल्डिंग जो थी, जो हेरिटेज बिल्डिंग थी, उनको मिसयूज किया गया, अब्यूज किया गया, उनको इरेशनल लैंड यूजेस में किया गया। और ये डेवलपमेंट जो है, हिल एरिया जो है, हेरिटेज जो है, ये जब तक सिटी के इंटीग्रल पार्ट प्लानिंग का नहीं बनती तो तब तक ये नहीं बचाई जा सकती। मैं कुछ इमेजेस दिखा रहा हूँ हिल एरियाज के, जो कि इनकी वेल्थ है, जो इनकी ये जो टूरिज्म को प्रोटेक्ट करती है, एंड दे नीड्स टू बी दे नीड टू बी प्रिजर्व्ड एंड प्रोटेक्टेड। लेकिन मैं कुछ ये आपको, मैं जो आपने इश्यूज बताए हैं, अब इसका हल क्या है? हल का तरीका यही है कि हमारा वो नॉर्मल सिस्टम नहीं चलेगा जो हम प्लेन एरिया के लिए कहते हैं। और दूसरा में है कि हमें हिल एरिया की जो पिक्यूलरिटी है, कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है, उनकी अंदर की स्ट्रक्चर है, उनको देख के ही अपनी प्लानिंग स्ट्रेटजीज बनानी है। और अनफॉर्चुनेटली मैंने कहा, हमारे कोई कॉलेज नहीं है, हमारी कोई यूनिवर्सिटी नहीं है जो हिल एरिया प्लानिंग डेवलपमेंट पर प्लानिंग का सबक पढ़ा सके या स्ट्रक्चर के बारे में बात कर सके। तो अल्टीमेटली जो जितने लोग पढ़े आते हैं वो प्लेन की समझ से हिल एरिया को डेवलपमेंट करते हैं, और जिसका कारण क्या है? हिल एरिया की डेवलपमेंट जो मास्टर प्लान है वो टोटल इरेशनल और इम्प्रॉपर है। जो बिल्डिंग बनी है, they are subjected to lot of stresses and strain because they don't look into this. Mobility remains another issue. तो हमारे लिए possibility options क्या हैं? I think we have to look for back, कि हमें क्या हिल एरिया में है। तो पहला प्रिंसिपल रहेगा डेवलपमेंट विदाउट डिस्ट्रक्शन, ये चीज पहली चीज है। नंबर 2 है बेसिक कैरिंग कैपेसिटी है, कितनी जगह की है, उसमें कितने लोग सकें। हमें डिजाइन विद नेचर एंड कल्चर की बात करनी है। हमें जो हमारी जो इकोसिस्टम है उसको प्रिजर्व करना, प्रमोट करना है, वैल्यू एडिशन करनी है। इको सेंसिटिव अप्रोच को, एरियाज को हमने प्रिजर्व करके रखना है। हमने एरिया में सस्टेनेबिलिटी को आगे बढ़ाना है, और हमने अपनी मोबिलिटी की जगह एक्सेसिबिलिटी को आगे लेके जाना है। हमें नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज की बात करनी है, उनको इन्वायरमेंट और उनको क्वालिटेटिव बनाना है, और प्लान डेवलपमेंट रिमेन्स द बेस्ट ऑप्शन ऑफ द हिल एरियाज नो। और हमें एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन वो क्रिएट करनी है जो कि हिल एरिया को डेडिकेटेड मैन पावर क्रिएट कर सकें, उनकी प्लानिंग में, कंस्ट्रक्शन में, डेवलपमेंट में और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में। और हमारी जो पॉलिसी है कि इन्वायरमेंट इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट को, तो हमें स्ट्रेटेजिक इन्वायरमेंट असेसमेंट फॉर द इंटायर एरिया विल हैव टू बी देयर। और उसके अलावा जो हमारे पास अभी एक नॉर्थ ईस्ट स्टेट के लिए हिल एरिया काउंसिल बनी है, उसकी जगह ये हमें सारे हिल एरियाज के लिए, इनमें नॉर्थ वेस्ट भी लेके, उनका पूरा एक काउंसिल बना के जो कि इनको लुक आफ्टर करे और गाइड करे, तो उनके लिए ये बात करनी चाहिए। तो उसके अलावा हमें क्या करना है, नॉन लैंड बेस्ड एक्टिविटीज को प्रमोट करना है, हमने एनवायरनमेंट को प्रोटेक्ट करना है, ह्यूमन सेटलमेंट को बहुत बड़ा नहीं बनाना, नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज को आगे लेके जाना है। हमारा बेस्ट ऑप्शन रहेगा प्लानिंग फॉर विद रीजन और उसके लिए हमें डिफरेंट ऑप्शन जो है, ग्रीन बिल्डिंग्स ले जानी है और सिटीज को ग्रीन रेटिंग करनी है। दुनिया में 2 मॉडल हुए हैं। अगर दुनिया को आप,
सॉरी सर, अगर आप 2 मिनट में रैप अप कर सकते हैं समराइज करके।
मैं कर रहा हूँ, मैं मुझे 25 मिनट 20 मिनट में खत्म कर दूंगा, नो प्रॉब्लम, ठीक है, आई फिनिश। तो दुनिया में दो ही मॉडल हैं हिल एरियाज के। यहाँ स्विस मॉडल है, जापानीज मॉडल है। स्विस मॉडल है डिस्पर्सल मॉडल, जिसमें उन्होंने सारी स्टेट जो नेशन की लैंड यूज है उसकी प्लानिंग पहले ही कर दी है, किस यूज के लिए। सेकेंडली उन्होंने हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिक पावर पर एम्फेसाइज दिया है, जिससे वो अल्टरनेट सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी है। तीसरा, उन्होंने किसी भी फॉरेस्ट कवर को डिस्ट्रॉय नहीं दिया। और चौथा, उन्होंने टूरिज्म है सारे स्टेट में फैल जाए, कंट्री में फैल जाए, जहां मर्जी जाइए आपको टूरिज्म मिल जाएगा। लेकिन जापान ने उल्टा किया है। जापान ने किया है, उन्होंने हिल एरिया को बिल्कुल प्रिजर्व कर दिया, प्लेन एरिया को इंटेंसिव डेवलपमेंट कर दिया। हिल एरिया वहां पर 75% है और प्लेन एरिया 25% है। कैन यू बिलीव इट? और वो दो जो सिर्फ 75% में 2% पॉपुलेशन रहती है, और 98% पॉपुलेशन किसमें है? बाकी के 25 एरिया प्लेन एरिया में। तो उन्होंने हिल एरिया को रिसोर्सेज के लिए, फॉरेस्ट के लिए, हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिक पावर और टूरिज्म के लिए रखा है, जबकि प्लेन एरिया में सारी आपकी हाउसिंग, इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट, ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स, जितनी अर्बनाइजेशन है वो रखी हैं। ये दोनों मॉडल के अपने एडवांटेजेस हैं, जिसको आप यानी कि सोच सकते हैं। ये देखिए, दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा जो सिटी है वो जापान है, टोक्यो है, जिसमें 34 मिलियन पीपल आर रिजाइडिंग। regional planning, we know this is the advantages over the urban planning। जब तक ये हिल एरिया जो हैं अगर रीजनल प्लानिंग नहीं करेंगे, तो मेरे ख्याल में they will not be able to achieve and prevent these kind of disaster, because hill area, the region planning takes care of the entire stock of the state itself in terms of resources। land use planning जो करनी है उसमें हमने clear define करना है area which are very sensitive, area which are medium sensitive, which are of low sensitivity। जो area जो है वो उनको हमने हाई सेंसिटिव को हमें प्रिजर्व करना है, और डेवलपमेंट जो है लो एरिया में निकाल के लेनी है। तो ये एरिया जो है ये रीजनल प्लानिंग के लिए बिल्कुल डिफाइंड है, नेचर खुद डिफाइन करती है, जिसको हमने समझना है और आगे इंप्लीमेंट करके ले जाना है। उसके बाद जो है हमें सिटीज को कॉम्पैक्ट बनाना है, सो दैट दे आर नॉट मेल्टिंग, दे आर नॉट स्प्रेडिंग एवरीवेयर, दे आर ओनली कन्फाइंड टू एरियाज which are plain area which can take up, or their capacity is limited। देन फिर हमारी जो अप्रोच है वो बेसिकली जो है ये मोटर बेस्ड अप्रोच नहीं हुई, पेडेस्ट्रियन या मास ट्रांसपोर्टेशन बेस्ड है। तो हम एक्सेसिबिलिटी की बात करेंगे, ना कि हम एक्सेसिबिलिटी का बात करेंगे, मोबिलिटी की बात नहीं करेंगे। और प्लानिंग फॉर पीपल करेंगे, प्लानिंग फॉर व्हीकल नहीं करेंगे। टूरिज्म को हम ध्यान से देखेंगे ताकि टूरिज्म रिमेन सपोर्टिव, एंड the best model remains the model of Switzerland। Then heritage is another area which I said which needs to be conserved। लेकिन सारी लैंड की प्लानिंग जो है, लैंड suitability analysis, this is a method which needs to be implemented, because the entire area of the Himachal needs to be mapped in terms of the land suitability। The land which is suitable for construction, land with preservation and protection. जब तक ये नहीं होगा तब तक आपकी growth and development ration नहीं होगी. Of course, leadership remains very very important. और उसके अलावा ये जितने भी built environment है ये बड़े ध्यान से देनी है कि वो आपकी स्लोप को देख के, स्ट्रक्चर को देख के, टाइपोलॉजी को देख के, और आपने ग्रीन बिल्डिंग जाएंगे यू विल बी मेकिंग वैल्यू एडिशन. और ग्रीन बिल्डिंग आपने देखा है इट्स वर्किंग विद नेचर इटसेल्फ. तो अभी बात की गई शैलेश पाठक जी ने कि हिल एरिया रेटिंग के लिए है, और अभी आपको सौरभ जी बताएंगे डिटेल में हिल एरिया अडॉप्ट करने के लिए ये जो रेटिंग करने से हाउ यू कैन रैशनलाइज द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द हिल एरियाज लेकिन लास्ट में मैं ये कंक्लूड करूंगा, हिल एरिया जो है अगर उसमें डेवलपमेंट करनी है तो नंबर 1 देयर इज नो ऑप्शन अदर देन द प्लान डेवलपमेंट. देन सेकेंडली हमें जो करना है development without destruction, and development based on sustainability. Then we have to have a empowering the state in the knowledge and expertise that hill area को कैसे डेवलप करना है, प्लान करना है. रीजन प्लानिंग की बात की, और जो कि रूरल एंड अर्बन को बोथ करना है, और उसमें कैपेसिटी बनानी है आर्किटेक्चर और टाउन प्लानिंग डिपार्टमेंट यूएलबीज में, ताकि दे कैन लुक आफ्टर वेरी क्लियरली. और ये भी है उनमें सिनर्जी भी लानी है. हर डिपार्टमेंट को एम्पावर करने की जगह उनको क्लब भी करना है. और अल्टीमेटली जो ये है कि अगर एक डिपार्टमेंट इनको क्लब करके एक जगह ले जाया जाए तो ये दे कैन वर्क मोर इफेक्टिवली एंड एफिशिएंटली. और ह्यूमन सेटलमेंट को हमने पूरा सस्टेनेबल और इफेक्टिव एंड एफिशिएंट बनाना है. और जो लोकल नॉलेज, वहाँ का एक्सपीरियंस, एक्सपर्टीज इतने साल का है, उनका फायदा उठाना है. और इसके लिए involving people and community will remain very very important, but nevertheless I would say I think it will be more empowering the local community and the people, and looking holistically. You can't divorce hill area from the plain area, because the growth and development of plain area, jitni bhi flooding ho rahi hai plain area mein, they are all basically what is happening wrong in the rural hill areas. So I will conclude, hill area remains different, distinct, and they have to be dealt differently and distinctly in terms of their planning, development, and management. And we need to have, those manpower and resources and expertise who can look after, these kind of complexity of this. Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I'm sure हमारे सारे participants आपसे agree करेंगे, जैसे आपने कितनी बेहतरीन तरीके से बताया है प्लानिंग इन अ नटशेल की कैसे हो सकता है हिल सेंट्रिक में. आपकी एक बात जो मुझे बहुत पसंद आई थी, जो आपने बताया, इट्स प्लानिंग फॉर पीपल एंड नॉट प्लानिंग फॉर द टूरिज्म. थैंक यू सो मच सर.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. So if you can just accept the
My bad.
request of yeah. So
Thank you.
Ashwin, you can go ahead with the next presenter. I hope Professor Ghosh is already there.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah, Asfiya, you can go ahead with the introduction and then start.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to introduce Professor Chandan Ghosh, who's our second speaker for today. Professor Chandan Ghosh currently works at the Ministry of Home Affairs, the National Institute of Disaster Management, Government of India, New Delhi, as a professor and head of Resilient Infrastructure Division since July 2006. Professor Ghosh does the research, training, capacity building for engineers, architects, planners in disaster resilient construction, geosynthetic applications, which is earth reinforcement, disaster mitigation and management, retrofitting, rapid visual screening, disaster documentation, and bioengineering solution. He's did one PhD in IIT Kharagpur and second PhD from Ibaraki University, Japan, 2004. His current project is revising TM plan for the CPWD establishment. I welcome you, sir, and would request you to take the presentation forward on designing resilient infrastructure in hilly region, case studies of the Northern Himalayas. Thank you.
Okay. First of
Sir,
all,
I've
thank
given you the
you.
presentation rights.
Yeah. I'm just sharing the
Please go ahead.
presentation.
Yes, sir.
Entire screen. Share. Is it coming?
Yes, sir. We
Yes,
can.
it's
see it.
coming?
full screen, and then we can see.
Okay. So Let me.
Yeah, and at the bottom, the fourth one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is it?
Is this the slide? Okay. Is this the slide?
You
Because
can
we
see?
can see some add notes or a script on top. Is it looking?
Actually, there's a dual screen, sir. If you could just go back and just share your screen.
So you can escape and share it again. I think there is some issue.
Okay. Stop. Is this?
Yeah. You can press the escape button. I think it will go back to the.
Okay.
Yeah. You can share again. And
Ah. Okay. Export it and something is happening. Let me check.
So maybe you can restart the application for the PowerPoint.
Yeah, yeah.
you can convert it into PDF, sir. Sometime if there's a not much of
Now
animation,
it
you
is
can
okay.
convert it. Yeah, it's coming now. Or you can press it from this mode also is fine in case
Yeah.
there is. Generally,
Let me put it in
F5,
the.
it should go as full screen. Yeah, now it's full screen. Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for this wonderful session, especially ecosystem to be followed in hill area that which has shaken us without even earthquake, with the rainfall and the kind of development work that going on. Nothing much to say or nothing much to elaborate, but we are seeing that whatever we have been creating, whatever way that we are trying to forage into the hill area, and that is not sustainable. So in that case, in this presentation, I would like to take you towards that how to live in the hill area. Even though earthquake is a separate one, but I will show first few of the things that how to live in the earthquake area. Not showing that what is the resilient structure, but what kind of construction that we are doing in the hills and how they are to be tested before earthquake, during earthquake, and after earthquake. The first photograph that you can see, you all remember 7th February 2021, the Tapovan area, that Vishnugad area got totally flooded by, not flooded, I would say, it is all debris that came more than 20 kilometers away, which was not known to the construction worker, resulting that many people went out. So this photographs is unforgettable because our rescue team have been able to save this person, and you can see all we can emotional outbreak or the emotion in surviving from such a disaster that has happened and which has taken aback our development by several crores back and losing a lot of our effort, as well as the kind of learning lesson that why not we should have each one of us when we are having mobile phone which are always geolocated, and when we are using smart card or we are using so many RFID cards, when we are doing conferences and seminar, or when we are going to airport with the Digi Jatra kind of app that we have developed, or for that matter, when we are able to have almost flawless communication with the Chandrayaan 3 or even Aditya L1, then where we are then, who stops us in using similar kind of communication, which are not affected by any kind of disaster? This means radio communication. Each of the worker about whom that we do not know, many of them still worried, but now there are system of communication or system of RFID cards with the radio communication or even LoRa based system, that where smart card or sensor or any kind of say QR code which can be kept with each and every worker or anyone living in the hill area in as many as number that we want, and communication can be possible, or communications are being made when they are buried even in the avalanche or even in the debris more than 6-7 meters. 6-7 meter means 2-story building height of debris. From there also communication is being possible, and it is being done, it is being tested, they are implemented in many places. So the kind of thing that after the disaster, every disaster that follows, and here of course from an IDM side, from our side, we visit there after these things happen, and we visit even after rescue operation are also completed to check that what is the damage and what is the amount of money to be given or allocated for the reconstruction of the entire things. So under this background, let us take on some of the situation that in many of our hill areas, like even whether it is in our country, the kind of vulnerable exposure that where rainwater can go deep into the soil, and we are helpless in such manner. And on that, such kind of building, even though they look like a lightweight building, of course, that is a separate topic, what kind of construction that to be followed in the hill area, where we should not go for any concrete or heavy constructions or retaining wall. We should go for such kind of lightweight building. But before that, building has to have certain foundations, and that foundation in the slopey area has to be stabilized. Stabilized by not only retaining wall, there are many natural way, like ecosystem, there are many natural way that we can stabilize. So I'll show some of those examples in this presentation. So what are the natural solution we could look at? This is of course in another country that you see here greenery is there, but still that greenery is not able to hold up the slope that which came down suddenly. And then these are very dangerous area. Though these buildings are created not on the slope, but here you can see they are directly on the slope, which is most of the cases we see. But here they have taken enough of the not engineering, I would say. Here special type of grass is to be planted over here because making a structural or wall or putting nailing in such a hilly area here is not always cost economically feasible. So that is why construction of that at the toe area of the hill, even then they could not be saved because there was no guarantee of the soil slope that which can come down. So similar situation that we have seen, and see that still the building has developed crack, but still there are some ways to stabilize such kind of hills also. That is what the thing is, how to live in the hilly area. That is to be also looked at in this short presentation. Now, one of the things that which like only grass could save a building, a private building in an area where you know that with the community people that where I was there at this time, and then planted this grass without any expenditure, because only payment has been made to these people at the whatever is the daily wages. There are about 10 people. The grass were taken from one of the donations, which are very, very cheap, means from 50 paisa per piece to maybe 4 rupee 5 in the market, you can see. So those have been planted in December, and then they could grow in 6 months of time in this manner. So we may like to do a lot of research that how grass has worked. So maybe a lot of thesis work, presentation, or a lot of research report can find out. But reality is that they have been able to take care of the building that where people, community people, they came over there to see that grass being planted. And this is how that it has been able to save, which cannot be accepted so easily by by the geotechnical engineering or geology or bioengineering community, or especially geotechnical, that from the civil engineering field, they may take this as just as a case study. Oh, it is just, it just worked like a fluke, but it is not like that. Let us take such kind of eco-restoration by the natural resources very seriously, and take care of many of the landslide situation that which are being shown over here can be easily handled, rather than allocating several crores of budget, which becomes a game changer in our society, being from the professional side, or being from the management side, or being from the landslides that we are facing. So let us take it in reality, that how they work over here. So site selection and selection of the grass becomes very important. So it is just to say that we are having the Tehri Dam, which is the country's highest dam. And we are also bothered about the siltation, that its reservoir getting filled up every time. And we have got proper measurement and scaling how much silt is coming. Instead of that, let us rather stop the silt flowing into the reservoir by seeing that this kind of erosion, where some greenery are there, same greenery can be taken up by the grass, that which I am going to talk. And it is not always feasible to go here. So I will also show some of the technique by which seeds can be thrown by hydroseeding. So in some cases in the country, hydroseeding is taken up at least to cover up this kind of erosion, so that we can save not only the hills here, but also operative and maintenance cost in desilting such kind of basin, or reducing the output capacity or output in terms of, say, hydroelectric power. Or let us not just getting overlooked by the way that which are being displayed in some of the seminar or in some of the exhibition, that how beautiful it looked like, that we have got a country's highest dam, 262-meter high, but actual health conditions of the reservoir is like this, which are being neglected, or in the process of making a huge plan for taking up desilting work every year, or every after some interval. Let us also look at that there are several dams are under construction. We cannot afford to have some other alternative, but wherever it is feasible, they have to be made. But at the same time, we have to find out certain alternative. When such kind of dam are creating a lot of trouble in the ecosystem and climate change, and many other effect of seepages, and many such biomass are getting, rather ecosystems are being modified. So, and for that, what are the impact that it is causing to our environment? We are not able to take care of by the EIA, environmental impact assessment. In fact, from our side, many of us, we are emphasizing there should be disaster impact assessment also. Okay, it is very lucrative to hear such kind of disaster impact assessment, or environmental impact assessment, or many other assessment, post-disaster need assessment. So many things are there coined, but assessing them in reality is not an easy task. So what are the micro storage of water? Instead of making a dam, we can store water. So countrywide now, mission mode project is going on. Every district is going to have a number of such server, number of such ponds, and the ponds is having some geomembrane over here. Many of the posh area farmhouses, they are maintaining the geomembrane pond. But let us elaborate this. Let us take it more seriously to have or to store water in this manner in the extensive area where rainfall is too extensive that it gets flooded. At least let us store them in such way, along with the mission mode project in every district. 70-75 ponds are to be made. Many are scoring this number very fast. But in order to restore water, in order to keep water, there are certain material which is needed, that which can store water without much loss, or this can be covered thoroughly, so that we can also reduce the evaporation loss also. In this manner, several such things can be stored even in the hilly area, so that we don't have to depend on so many numbers of pipelines pass through the lanes and bylanes in our hilly area. Often they are getting disturbed, they are getting leaked, and they remain uncontrolled, and leakages and other things always keep a problem. But every houses or at the hilltop, water can be restored in this manner, and they can be carried to desired location more easily in times of need. So for the human race, the Earth is blessed planet because of its position of the solar system and because of its physical dimension. So the Earth is cool enough. We are all surviving over here. Even several lakh or billion light years away, we have been able to search if there is another planet like Earth or not. We are still not able to find that. So let us see that enjoy this living, but we have to make our living sustainable, resilient enough. So when we look at the school building, that we say that we have done our, see, in the Nepal earthquake or in our cases also, that building floors and the tables and other things. So there are many showcases, conferences, seminar, and that when we describe the vulnerability of such kind of even school building or hospital buildings. So now we all know that this is the Nepal or somewhere here, and these are the earthquake prone area. Every day, every second, these earthquakes are being recorded, and they are placed on its global map. So we are able to map the occurrence of the earthquake. So in that way, the zonation in the entire Himalaya, east to west, about 2,400 kilometers. It is in the severe most zone. So despite knowing this, so we are making many such structures in our Himalayan area. So, and then taking care of earthquake effect in design. But at the same time, see that, so we see this thing, building is here, then when we do the things, it is failed. So there is something earthquake resistant design. Here also you can see that we make some test and study, not in our country, it is in Japan, how nicely they have constructed. None of our buildings in hilly area or even in plain area, where from I am sitting over here, they follow strictly. They do not follow this kind of codal provisions that beams and column, they have to be centrally placed. Even then, beams and column have to be centrally placed. When it is tested under an earthquake, you can see that where it has failed. Just because column didn't fail, but column has failed by this parapet wall. So these are to be shown to our engineers, to our contractors, to our education and society and planners all together, that what kind of impact that earthquake which are recorded, whether it is Nepal earthquake or Bhuj earthquake or Kangra earthquake, these are all recorded. Those can be regenerated into a building, 5, 6, 7-story building, and they can be tested. And also we have seen that twin earthquake in Nepal, but we are totally helpless or helpless to get any early warning. When first shock occurred, then our team visited there, they are in the rescue operation. But again, another earthquake occurred of almost of very high magnitude near the Himalaya, Everest. Then what is the aftershock effect? These are aftershock of that. Totally they are related or unrelated. There may be scientific things in the seismologists. But what we have to look at the building, that when this building was shaken with the largest earthquake with 100%, and same was shaken at 60%. Here I think it is there at 60%, you can see, which is again in experiment, same column with a lesser magnitude earthquake, when it is shaken at 60% considered as an aftershock. See that what has happened to this column junction. So in our system, we have not yet come out reliable early warning system, and moreover, what a main shock does to the building and what an aftershock of lesser magnitude, say 60% on the same building, has created such kind of havoc things. This still has not attracted the attention of our post-disaster need assessment, or even every earthquake happen or every such disaster happen. We often say that media and tourist, rather disaster tourism, gets a lot of attendance over there. But what is basically missing is to highlight and to take into proper action in such kind of devastations that we get even when aftershock comes. This is just one example. Here, the Sikkim earthquake in 2011, the bridge collapsed while 48-wheeler heavy trailer carrying, this Tista Urja project transformer it was carrying. And after 3 months, because earthquake occurred on September 18, but after 3 months that it has collapsed when this trawler, 48-wheeler trawler, because no such systematic study, reporting, testing, evaluation is existing in the country to check the health of the structure, bridges, buildings, that whether it has developed certain cracks or progressive failure already in the offing or not after it has got the main shock. So this is again an example. And we always, now lots of projects are going on in the country, a lot of emphasis is going on to work or to predict earthquake, or rather to catch early the earthquake. So a lot of research projects are coming up. But more than 15, 20 years back, this kind of doorbell type quake alarm has been developed and available in the market. You can see it is with the trademark. But what is to be taken up to check seismic qualification of our existing building? Seismic qualification of the existing building requires lots of I think rejigging our way of looking at earthquake. Let us not wait for when next big earthquake is going to come. Let us check that which are the building in the earthquake prone area which are already identified since 1962. Building code onward, it is there. Now another zone is being added also in the new code. So we have to check that whether our structures are seismically qualified or not. And in order to do that, we have to put certain kind of placard on the buildings which will be found authentically by the experts, especially civil engineer, that this is not safe or such kind of things. So we have to inculcate the habit of accepting the reality of our building, that whether it is going to be accepted or it is going to be behaving or it is going to collapse or not. That kind of mindset has to come up in our way. And moreover, this is still far away in the country, even though effort is going on. But it will give this kind of things when how much time that it is there, like at the position 3, 28 seconds are there, 6 intensity, it is going to shake. So such kind of warning system, we are still in the infancy that to develop in our country. Anyway, I think time is not that much, but I wanted to show quickly, maybe in few 4-5 minutes. Is it okay?
Sir, probably you could just summarize in next 3 minutes.
Summarize the things. So
yes, sir, please.
So in the name of earthquake early warning, when this is the sophisticated approach available in some other country, we have not yet come out public because our research, our investment, our mindset, and our contemplation about the earthquake prediction, which is more significant in the mind of people, especially the kind of some of the scientists. But we, from engineering side, civil engineering side, we look at that, what is the reality of getting in a mobile phone that which is having geotag, and they will get a signal immediately wherever they are, that with such kind of things in the case of earthquake early warning. But taking an example of what has happened in 2014, the 22 students were swept away while the dam doors have been opened up, and then putting such kind of notice after that, putting such kind of notice that post-disaster measures, they are too much sarcastic, even though realistic in that way, that please don't go down. Whereas a siren system, sensor system in the beginning, I was mentioning, would have been more enough, more rational to adopt here for everyone, rather than putting a such kind of warning system. Although this is a basic measure that we are familiar with. And there are earthquake-resistant buildings in hilly areas itself. For more than 500 years, they are surviving. And what are the measures they thought, which we are still yet to emulate such kind of measures? So you see that specific case studies that are available from Uttarakhand. And these are all more than 150 years old buildings, college building, that making hill habitat with such kind of, but this is not affordable because these are all natural material in those days. But lot of light gauge steel frame materials are available, and we can make affordable houses using such kind of constructions, which are very, very strong enough and very resilient enough in the hill area. So with, I think I would prefer that with a dam that which I've described over there during Uttarakhand, how much water was there before that flash flood occurred and how much water it came after that. So this way, there are certain saving that it did at that time. So anyway, the hill area that we have to make in this manner, these are not going to sustain, even though these are dotting our hill areas. So these are not the way, that is why we are facing. So, and this is in Shimla. So, but when we make buildings on such kind of things, where without understanding the subsoil, then surely they are going to create a lot of trouble and subsidence, and which are highly neglected in our culture of looking at hill habitat engineering. And so what I would like to say that the grass can grow this much, even 3 meters, more than that. This can grow this for erosion control. Grass can hold the slope of the hill more than 60, 70, 80 degree. Whereas normally we construct our embankment with 30, 35 degree, whereas grass can hold this. This is natural. This we have to understand and we have to apply. While we are taking the facility of this kind of road for more than 50 years without any danger, but we do not know what danger is ahead. But at the same time, we also swear by God that while going on a hill road area, let God-like person or entity saves us. So we have to minimize the knowing the things, taking the risk, and making our construction are resilient enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you for highlighting briefly about the various case studies across Coorg, Nepal, Sikkim's bridge and construction in various sectors and also various technologies. And now moving ahead, let me just share my screen. Yes. Our next speaker, the third speaker for the day, is Mr. Saurav Chaudhary. Saurav is a counselor at CII Indian Green Building Council. He's an architect, university gold medalist, and master planning done from CEPT Ahmedabad. He has a work experience spanning over 11 years on assessment of green infrastructure in cities, transit projects, villages, in construction with concerned Ministry of Government and Government of India and national level subject expert. He has represented IGBC in Global Alliance Roundtable for Buildings and Cities in 2007 Hong Kong, World Sustainable Built Environment Conference 2017 Hong Kong, Singapore, Green Building Congress in 2016, and also a key speaker in various conferences, seminars organized by Municipalica, Association of Municipalities and Development Authorities, CPWD workshops, smart city conclaves, IITs, NITs, and many more. I welcome you, Saurav, and request you to take forward the presentation where we're explaining the guidance framework for green and resilient hill-centric development. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will try to share my screen. Please confirm, is the screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah.
You may put it in full screen, please.
Yeah. Putting it full screen just a second. I think how to go about it. Yeah.
Yes, right. Perfect.
So, a very good morning to all of you. I think we are at good afternoon now. So it has been a great morning from the morning, and we have understood that there is a need to work on the hill-centric development, and work has already started. The good news is the hill habitat rating system, which CII and IGBC with the various stakeholders in the country developed a guidance framework, a hill habitat rating system covering all kinds of rainfall prone zone, the snowfall prone zone, and the overall the calamities and the issues and the specifics of the hill-centric development has been addressed. So first of all, I am from Indian Green Building Council, representing here from the council, and want to elaborate about the vision with which we started in 2001 when the first Center of Excellence of CII was set up, specific to green businesses in Hyderabad. And we invite you all to the IGBC headquarters or the CI Green Godrej Green Business Center, India's first platinum-rated green building in 2003, and the greenest building in the world in 2004 at that point of time. And now from this building, we have come across a wide range of buildings under all asset classes. The vision of the council is that together with all the stakeholders like you, the government, industry, academia, manufacturers, and all the counterparts to in the world to focus on a sustainable development. And in India, we are focusing that to become a global leader, the Jagat Guru on sustainability by 2025, and which have embarked on this journey a long way. And recently, on 16th of February 2023, India has achieved the landmark milestone of 10 billion square foot green building footprint, which is also the second largest green footprint in the world, and announced in the presence of Honorable President of India. And the initiatives of IGBC talking into the policy advocacy or the green building standards or the green built environment standards or the overall capacity building, we are all aligned with the sustainable development goals. And as part of World Green Building Council worldwide, we are today on the World Green Building Week. This 11th to 15th September is celebrated as World Green Building Week. So we are across the world. There are a lot of discussions on various subjects. We chose these 2 days on 12th and 13th to focus on the hill habitat. And overall, the green building landscape in the country or the green cities or the metros, they are supported by many of the government incentives, and which are listed here. Around 12 states are giving additional FAR and other property tax and related incentives from the different departments of the government, and which can be also checked on our website. And if there are larger projects coming up in hill stations like the metro projects or the monorail projects or the ropeway projects, they can adopt a holistic rating system called the IGBC MRTS rating system. This rating system have been adopted by so far 17 metro authorities in the country, including the ropeway projects are also discussing this rating system to be adopted, so that the entire transit system adopts a greener approach. And even the high-speed rail project coming up, which is the first time India is embarking on the high-speed rail network. We are aware about the European network of high-speed rail or the Chinese network of the high-speed rail, but India is also embarking on it, and you will be following an exclusive rating for the high-speed rail. That's another version of the rating system on the high-speed rail. So we are always welcome anybody interested to work on any of the ropeway projects also to discuss with us from Himachal Pradesh or from the other parts of the hill station, other hill cities also. So the villages also we are closely working. This is some background of what IGBC is working in the across the various built environment like the cities, metros, and also the villages, where around 30 villages in 10 states have been already rated, and many are in pipeline. Around 30 we are closely working now. In 2015, when the Ministry of Urban Development or Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, we can say, started the discussion on the MOUD guidelines, specifically on the smart cities, or the cities need to become smarter as well as sustainable. So IGBC discussed with the ministry that it should be sustainable and smart both. So today we are also on this webinar talking about sustainable and resilient and smart also for the hill cities. So we have got these 3 volumes launched in 2015, 2017, and 2018. 18th one is more important, where we discuss the hill cities and towns. addressing the major hill states, around 11 hill states and the 400 plus hill stations which can adopt this rating system. And so far across the country, 25 plus cities have adopted this approach. These are aligned with the low carbon cities principle or the carbon neutral cities principles or the green cities worldwide, which is very much familiar as a term, saying that how the city addresses this in the greener master planning, greener policies and greener projects when they develop their whole infrastructure, starting from design stage onwards, how they can make it more greener. So some of the cities have gone ahead in this journey. So far, 15 cities are certified in the country, including one in the hill city, which is Kedarnath redevelopment, one of the very important project as a landmark project in terms of the hill habitat, because that was the first project which took up and demonstrated the excellence in terms of achieving IGBC platinum rating in that category. So there are many municipalities and municipal corporations we are closely working, plus the industrial cities, port cities, aero cities and others. So if there are aero cities coming up in hill stations also, or there are industrial parks coming up, they are also relevant to adopt the green approach. So now talking about why sustainable development, we know the majority of India is yet to be built. That is what the McKinsey's report says, 70% of India is yet to be built. So when we build it, let's make it more greener and more smarter. And from this point onwards, I'll try to speak both in Hindi and English so that we connect more to the masses and the entire community, where the major mode of communication, it may be Himachali, but I'd like to strive with Hindi. So देश के 100 स्मार्ट सिटीज और 500 अमृत सिटीज में जो भी डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है विद आईजीबीसी, हम चाहते हैं कि वो सारा इंटरवेंशंस ग्रीन इंटरवेंशंस हो। इसके लिए हमने जो पहल की है उसमें हम ग्रीन सिटीज रेटिंग सिस्टम को ज्यादा से ज्यादा गवर्नमेंट बॉडीज के साथ डिस्कस करते हैं। और अगर हम देखें 90% पूरे वर्ल्ड का जो पार्ट है हैव मोर देन वन, उसका 1/4 सिर्फ हिल्स में है। 90% की जो देश है उसका 1/4, 25% of the most of the countries in the world are in hilly areas and 50% of world population, आधा इस पूरे वर्ल्ड की पॉपुलेशन का डिपेंड करता है हिल एरिया से जो वाटर आता है हमारे पास। तो द एंटायर वाटरशेड डेवलपमेंट प्लान या द इकोसिस्टम है वो पूरा डिपेंडेंट है द हिली एरियाज, जो कि 10% हो सकता है या 25% हो सकता है इन डिफरेंट कंट्रीज डिपेंडिंग ऑन द साइज एंड कॉन्टेक्स्ट, बट वो 50% उस देश के लोग उस हिल स्टेशन पे डिपेंड करते हैं, फुल एरिया इकोसिस्टम पे डिपेंड करते हैं। तो ये हमारे लिए ऑल द मोर इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है। अगर हम हैबिटेट की बात करें तो हैबिटेट, व्हाट इज अ हैबिटेट? द नेचुरल होम और एनवायरनमेंट ऑफ एन एनिमल, प्लैनेट और अदर ऑर्गेनिज्म इज अ हैबिटेट। सो हमने ये टर्म हैबिटेट पिक किया और टू गिव इट ए कॉन्टेक्स्ट दैट हम हैबिटेट बना रहे हैं, ना कि सिर्फ हिल एक सिटी फॉर ए population. We are actually addressing not a city for a population or jobs. We are addressing the entire habitat, जो कि सारी जीव जंतुओं के लिए, एनिमल्स, प्लांट्स, ऑल स्पीशीज के लिए है। और जब हिल्स की हम बात करते हैं, ब्यूरो ऑफ इंडियन स्टैंडर्ड्स कहता है कि एनी एरिया हैविंग ऑल्टीट्यूड मोर देन 600 मीटर फ्रॉम मीन सी लेवल, 600 मीटर मीन सी लेवल से जो जिसकी हाइट रहेगी और जिसका एवरेज स्लोप 30 डिग्री रहेगा, वो एक क्लासिफाई करेगा एज ए हिली एरिया। So accordingly, hilly areas all over India classified है। Many of the states have got those hilly areas. 21% इस देश का जो लैंड एरिया है उसका एरिया हिली एरिया में पड़ता है और 9% पूरे देश का जो पॉपुलेशन है अप्रोक्सीमेटली 10% जो हिल सिटीज में आज डिसाइड कर रहे हैं, जिनका भी हमें देखना है कि किस तरह से वो ज्यादा सेफ रहे, ज्यादा सस्टेनेबल रहे और ज्यादा रिजिलियंट हो इन फ्यूचर। 40% जो फॉरेस्ट कवर ऑफ इंडिया है वो भी कंसंट्रेटेड है इन हिल एरियाज में। अगर हम पूरे हिंदू कुश हिमालयन रीजन की बात करें तो यहाँ कुछ 20 करोड़ लोग रह रहे हैं इस हिंदू कुश हिमालयन रीजन में। 20 करोड़ इज अ वेरी बिग नंबर। सो उसके बाद अगर हम देखें कंपेयर टू द ग्लोबल कॉन्टेक्स्ट, हिल्स हमेशा एक लंग्स रहा है। जैसे हम कहते हैं कि हिली एरियाज आर द लंग्स फॉर इंडिया, सिमिलरली अमेजन इज द लंग्स ऑफ द होल प्लैनेट। That is what, depending on the kind of whole ecosystem they have created. So they are called the lungs of the planet. So more than 20% of all the oxygen is produced from this one forest. So why a forest is important is for many reasons. अगर आज की बात करें तो आज जो हमारे हिल स्टेशंस है वहां पे एक सेंसिटिव इकोसिस्टम की बहुत जरूरत है, ताकि हम एक सेंसिटिव और एक साइंटिफिक अप्रोच से डेवलपमेंट कर पाए, ताकि कम से कम कैलामिटीज हो और हमारा सिटी आज जो हुआ है वो दोबारा रिपीट ना हो, उस तरह से ज्यादा प्रिपेयर्ड हो फॉर फ्यूचर। सो हमें चाहिए कि ये ज्यादा से ज्यादा वेल प्रिपेयर्ड हो। फॉर दिस ए डेवलपमेंट स्ट्रेटेजी चाहिए हमें, जो कि सेम ना हो जो प्लेन्स में हो रही है। सो प्लेन्स से अलग हिल सिटीज के लिए एक डिफरेंट स्ट्रेटेजी चाहिए हमें, जिस वजह से इस हिल हैबिटेट रेटिंग सिस्टम का जन्म हुआ और जिसको इस सोच के साथ बनाया गया कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा हिल सिटीज इसको अडॉप्ट करें। क्योंकि ये हम जान चुके हैं कि आर्किटेक्चर इन हिल्स एंड प्लेन्स आर डिफरेंट। हिल्स में कंस्ट्रक्शन मेथोडोलॉजीज आर डिफरेंट। अगर आप साइट पे कंस्ट्रक्शन की बात करें तो आप यू कैन नॉट स्टार्ट द एक्सकेवेशन राइट देयर। आपको बहुत कुछ स्टेप्स लेने पड़ते हैं आफ्टर द मैनेजमेंट ऑफ द होल कटिंग ऑफ द स्लोप से लेके आपको सॉइल स्टडीज से लेके ओवरऑल reinforcement करके then finally you have to plan कि where I will put my building. So आप and then you have to plan for the rain which will be sudden rains also which will be happening. So आपको वो सारा ध्यान में रखते हुए आपको अपना एक डेवलपमेंट स्टार्ट करना पड़ता है पहाड़ों पे, ना कि प्लेन्स में जहाँ की हम डायरेक्टली एक्सकेवेशन कर सकते हैं और स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं कंस्ट्रक्शन। सो डेफिनेटली ये अलग है। सो हिली रीजियंस जो है डाइवर्स इकोसिस्टम है, एक यूनिक अपॉर्चुनिटी प्रोवाइड करता है एंड साथ साथ ये इक्वली प्रोन है एनवायरमेंटल डिग्रेडेशन के लिए, जो कि हम देख चुके हैं इन द पास्ट। तो अगर आप ग्लोबल स्केल में देखें हिल स्टेशंस को या हिल सिटीज को, तो हम देखते हैं कि देयर आर व्हाट इज देयर, जो एडिशनल चीज है जो हम अप्रोच मिस कर रहे हैं, वो अप्रोच है रिजिलियंस और वो अप्रोच है सस्टेनेबिलिटी। वो दोनों अप्रोच की हम डिस्कस करेंगे आज। आप ये फोटोग्राफ्स देख सकते हैं, कुछ स्विट्जरलैंड के फोटोग्राफ्स हैं, कुछ पिट्सबर्ग के फोटोग्राफ्स हैं। सो आप देख सकते हैं कि इन फोटोग्राफ्स में ये क्लियरली निकल के आया है कि इन इकोसिस्टम में भी बहुत अच्छी तरह से सस्टेनेबल, रिजिलिएंट एंड स्मार्ट सिटीज डेवलप हो सकते हैं। तो हमें इनसे सीखना है, बेसिकली क्या सीख सकते हैं और क्या हम इंडियनाइज्ड वे में कर सकते हैं। सो माउंटेन्स ऑफ डिफरेंट ऑल्टीट्यूड्स विद अ ग्रेट वैरायटी ऑफ शेप्स एंड क्लाइमेट्स एंड स्पेसिफिक कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ इकोसिस्टम एंड लाइवलीहुड, सबका कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ इकोसिस्टम अलग है, लाइवलीहुड अलग है, और ये चीजें आपको हर एक हिल स्टेशन में मिल जाएगा। माउंटेन्स, ट्रैकिंग, मेडिटेशन, हेरिटेज, देयर इज अ कॉम एनवायरनमेंट। लोग जाते हैं हिल स्टेशंस में ताकि वो मूवीज के स्क्रिप्ट लिख सके, ताकि एक कॉम माइंड में दे कैन थिंक एंड राइट समथिंग ब्यूटीफुल। लोग किताबें लिखते हैं हिल स्टेशन में, लोग हिल स्टेशन पे जाते हैं जब वो दे वांट टू गो अवे फ्रॉम द मेजर chaos ऑफ द सिटी एंड द हैसल ऑफ लाइफ। सो हिमाचल में भी हमारे पास काफी सारे हिल स्टेशंस हैं, जैसे कि हमने यहाँ लिस्ट किया है, काफी सारे हिल स्टेशंस है। हम सारे हिल स्टेशंस को हम इक्वली वी आर लुकिंग फ्रॉम द लेंस ऑफ हिल सेंट्रिक डेवलपमेंट। सो अप्रोच जो चाहिए हमें लार्ज हिल एरिया डेवलपमेंट में, वो अलग अप्रोच चाहिए। पहले है कि वो एरिया बेस्ड डेवलपमेंट हो सकता है, आप स्पेसिफिक एरिया को लेकर कर सकते हैं, या फिर आप कुछ स्ट्रेटजी ऐसा कर सकते हैं जैसे पूरे हिल सिटी में आप किस तरह से फुटपाथ का रोड नेटवर्क इंप्रूव करेंगे, पूरे हिल सिटी में आप कैसे पब्लिक टॉयलेट्स को एनकरेज करेंगे ताकि ओपन डिफिकेशन ना हो। ऐसे बहुत सारे मेजर्स आप देख सकते हैं। लिस्ट कैन बी 100+ इन दिस, जो हम डिस्कस कर सकते हैं। आई विल नॉट गेट इनटू डिटेल ऑफ ईच वन ऑफ देम। न्यू डेवलपमेंट सैटेलाइट सिटी, ये सारे हिल स्टेशन आज ही सोच रहे हैं कि दे मेक ए न्यू शिलोंग सिटी और देयर कैन बी न्यू शिमला सिटी, देयर कैन बी न्यू एरियाज वेयर दे वुड लाइक टू आइडेंटिफाई, ताकि आप इस हैबिटेशन को यू कैन शिफ्ट सम ऑफ देम टू द न्यूअर सिटी। जैसे कि न्यू टाउन कोलकाता भी डेवलप हुआ है, जैसे कि नया रायपुर है, नवी मुंबई है। तो वी हैव टू लुक एट सैटेलाइट सिटी। और एग्जिस्टिंग सिटी जो है, शिमला है हमारा, मनाली है, कैसे हम एग्जिस्टिंग सिटी को हैंडल करें। और इसमें जो इशू है वो सारा एड्रेस करना पड़ेगा बाय म्युनिसिपैलिटीज, बाय द मेजर डेवलपर्स एंड द होटेलियर्स, जो हाँ होटल्स बना रहे हैं और जो कैपेसिटी बिल्ड कर रहे हैं फॉर द टूरिज्म, प्लानर्स, आर्किटेक्ट्स, इंजीनियर्स एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली द सिटीजंस। सो एवरी सिटी, जो हिल सिटी है वो यूनिक है अपने आप में, और उसका अप्रोच भी यूनिक होना चाहिए। Soul of the city is very critical when we are discussing a hill station. If it's Shimla, we know it is tourism driven. There's a lot of economy related to tourism. और हम किस तरह से को शिमला को देखना चाहते हैं when we compare it with स्विट्जरलैंड और पिट्सबर्ग, जैसे मैं कह रहा था, तो कैसे हम इसको डेवलप करेंगे कि इट इज सस्टेनेबल, स्मार्ट एंड रिजिलियंट। मैं फिर से दोहरा रहा हूँ ये 3 वर्ड्स, क्योंकि ये हमें चाहिए हम एज ए कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ऑफ दिस हिल सिटी। अमरनाथ जो कि रिलीजियस सिटी है, जैसे कि केदारनाथ इज ऑलरेडी सर्टिफाइड, बद्रीनाथ इज ऑलरेडी प्लान टू गो हेड विद द ग्रीन हिल हैबिटेट रेटिंग सिस्टम। ऐसे काफी सारे हिल सिटीज से हम डिस्कस भी कर रहे हैं। दार्जिलिंग जिसमें टी एस्टेट्स है, तो हम ये देख इन हिल सिटीज का एक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है। अब हम चैलेंजेस की अगर बात करें तो हमें एक सस्टेनेबल अप्रोच क्यों चाहिए हमारे हिल सिटीज में, क्योंकि हमारे हिल सिटीज में 140 हिल डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स है हमारे इंडिया में, एज पर 2021 इंडियन स्टेट ऑफ फॉरेस्ट रिपोर्ट। और इसमें हम कहते हैं कि 902 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर, ऑलमोस्ट 1000 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर हैव बीन लॉस्ट ड्यू टू डेवलपमेंट। अब हमें देखना है कि ये डेवलपमेंट जरूरी है, बट नॉट एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ फॉरेस्ट और द ऑक्सीजन दैट वी आर टॉकिंग फॉर द एंटायर कंट्री। और ये वास्ट कार्बन सिंक भी है, प्लस ये ऑक्सीजन के साथ साथ ये सिंक फॉर द कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड ऑल्सो। दूसरी बात हम देखते हैं, व्हाई हिल फेसेस लार्ज स्केल लैंड इंस्टेबिलिटीज, ये लैंडस्लाइड्स, अर्थक्वेक्स क्यों हो रहे हैं। वी कांट स्टॉप अर्थक्वेक्स, वी कांट स्टॉप लैंडस्लाइड्स, वी कैन फोरकास्ट टू सम एक्सटेंट, वी बस्ट मिटिगेट द इफेक्ट्स, वी नीड टू मिटिगेट द इफेक्ट्स। और अगर हम ग्लोबली भी स्टडीज देखें तो कहते हैं कि 77% लोग are dying, people are getting killed in those things where the building is collapsing. So it is not nature is handling, we have to make better buildings and better design from the whole development process. So there is a planning involved, there is a regional planning involved, there is whole gamut of civil engineering and architecture involved, and the hill architecture is all the more important, plus the civil engineering in the context of hill areas. Excessive cutting of slopes for roads and buildings lead to occurrence of landslides. ये भी एक clear statement आया है based on many of the research outcomes. Why hills are losing? ये अपने hill architecture को क्यों lose कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि एक awareness की कमी है construction industry में. हमारे जैसे events we want to do state wise in all the hill states actually. क्योंकि ज्यादा से ज्यादा awareness होना चाहिए, and this should be led by the entire Himachal Pradesh developer associations and the hotel associations that we want only hill centric development. So demand for shelter leading to ill-conceived development. Demand will continue to increase. ये demand बढ़ता ही जाएगा क्योंकि होटल्स चाहिए होंगे, ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग जाना चाहते हैं, शिमला को देखना चाहते हैं, मनाली को देखना चाहते हैं, कुल्लू देखना चाहते हैं. पुअर मेंटेनेंस ऑफ हेरिटेज स्ट्रक्चर्स एक कंसर्न निकल के आ रहा है. हमने देखा है कि जो ओल्ड बिल्डिंग्स ऑफ शिमला है वो काफी ब्यूटीफुल बिल्डिंग्स है, 1800s और 1900s में बने हुए. अब जो एग्जिस्टिंग बिल्डिंग्स है वो डिलैपिडेटेड कंडीशन में है, और जो न्यू बिल्डिंग्स बन रही है वो बिल्कुल ही हिल सेंट्रिक नहीं है, वो एक आरसीसी कंस्ट्रक्शन है. तो हमें दोनों को ध्यान में रखते हुए ट्रेडिशनल आर्किटेक्चरल स्टाइल को भी बढ़ावा देना है, ताकि जो एक लाइवलीहुड है, जो कातकुनी आर्किटेक्चर जानते हैं या कोई अलग तरह की आर्किटेक्चर जानते हैं, हमने ऑल जितने भी तरह के आर्किटेक्चरल स्टाइल्स हैं वो हमारे रेटिंग सिस्टम में हाईलाइट किया हुआ है, स्पेसिफिक टू द रीजन ऑफ द एंटायर कंट्री, वो भी हमारे इस डॉक्यूमेंट में है. और स्पेसिफिक टू अर्थक्वेक, स्पेसिफिक टू लैंडस्लाइड, स्पेसिफिक टू साइक्लोन, किस तरह की कंस्ट्रक्शन प्रैक्टिसेस है और कौन कौन से आप स्मॉल 15 और 20 टिप्स आप फॉलो कर सकते हैं, वो सब भी लिस्टेड है इन द ग्रीन हिल हैबिटेट रेटिंग सिस्टम, जो कि डेवलप किया है इंडिया की एक नेशनल कमिटी ने. सो सेंसिटिव इकोसिस्टम की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है. सो इसीलिए ये रेटिंग सिस्टम इस पे बढ़ावा देता है कि कैसे हम कल्चरल वैल्यूज को भी ध्यान में रखें, नॉट ओनली आर्किटेक्चर. क्या होता है, आर्किटेक्चरल वैल्यूज को ध्यान में रखें, बट कल्चरल वैल्यूज को भी ध्यान में रखना पड़ेगा जब हम हिल सिटीज में है, और एड्रेस करना पड़ेगा कैरिंग कैपेसिटी को. चौथी जो एक इश्यू आ रही है, वाइल्ड एनिमल्स आर मूविंग इनटू सिटीज. वो हो रहा है क्योंकि जैसा हम कह रहे हैं 1000 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर हमने फॉरेस्ट ऑक्युपाई कर लिया विद डेवलपमेंट, तो फॉरेस्ट के जो जीव जंतु है वो भी हमारे सिटीज में आ रहे हैं, तो लार्जर इंटरेक्शंस हो रहे हैं विद द वाइल्ड लाइफ. सो वर्ल्ड्स एनुअल फॉरेस्ट डिफोरेस्टेशन की अगर हम बात करें तो वो इक्विवेलेंट टू ग्रीस है. एक ग्रीस का जितना एरिया है उतना एरिया एवरी ईयर डिफोरेस्टेशन हो जाता है इस पूरे वर्ल्ड में. तो हमें देखना है उसको हम कैसे कम कर सकते हैं. नाउ अगर फोकस की बात करें, अगर हम इश्यूज को एक साइड रखें और फोकस की बात करें और पॉजिटिव बात करें, तो क्या कर सकते हैं. इज अ साइट सिटिंग ऑन ए हिली टेरेन. आप साइटिंग कैसे करेंगे कि हिल टेरेन पे, और इसके लिए डिटेल्स में आप रेटिंग सिस्टम में रेफर कर सकते हैं, बट मैं कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स बताना चाहूंगा. जैसे साइटिंग आप कैसे कर रहे हैं बेस्ड ऑन द क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशन, द विंडवर्ड साइड, लीवर्ड साइड, नॉर्थ स्लोप, साउथ स्लोप, आप किस तरह से बिल्डिंग्स को लोकेट कर रहे हैं. गाइडलाइंस फॉर साइटिंग, गुड साइटिंग प्रैक्टिसेस, फॉरेस्ट कवर, ट्री इन्वेंटरी असेसमेंट हुआ है कि नहीं, कई बार फ्लोरा फौना स्टडी हुआ है कि नहीं, सॉइल एनालिसिस हुआ है कि नहीं, एमओईएफ नोटिफिकेशंस क्या कहता है. कभी हम कहते हैं कि इंडिया में कोड्स एंड स्टैंडर्ड्स नहीं है, पर मैं कहूंगा कि ऐसे बहुत से कोड्स एंड स्टैंडर्ड्स, और हमारे जो स्पीकर साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, इन्होंने दे हैव बीन पार्ट ऑफ 50 to 100 डिफरेंट पेपर्स, जिसमें कि बहुत सारे रिसर्च हुए हैं और बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स पे बात हुई है कि इसको किस तरह से हैंडल किया जाए. सो उन सबको एक पॉइंट पे लाने के लिए ही इस ग्रीन हिल हैबिटेट रेटिंग का डेवलप किया गया था, ताकि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग इस 40 पेज डॉक्यूमेंट को रेफर करें, और जहां वो डेवलपमेंट करें इस रेटिंग सिस्टम के अकॉर्डिंग करें, देयर विल बी मिनिमम लॉसेस एंड देयर विल बी फोकस ऑन साइंटिफिक अप्रोच. दूसरी बात होती है आर्किटेक्चर एंड प्लानिंग. अगर हम फोकस की बात करें, उसमें है बिल्डिंग रेगुलेशंस एंड डेवलपमेंट नॉर्म्स हमें फॉलो करना है. हर स्टेट का अपना एक नॉर्म्स है. इसमें भी कोई डिफरेंट स्टडीज हुए हैं, इनमें से भी कुछ जो इन स्टडीज में जुड़े हुए हैं वो भी आपसे चर्चा करेंगे कल इस बारे में कि कैसे बिल्डिंग रेगुलेशंस फॉर हिल टाउन्स होने चाहिए. अर्थक्वेक रेजिस्टेंट डिजाइन, साइक्लोन रेजिस्टेंट डिजाइन, क्लाइमेट रिस्पॉन्सिव डिजाइन, वाटर सेंसिटिव आर्किटेक्चर प्लानिंग. सुनने में बहुत अच्छा लगता है, बहुत सारे थीसिस, बहुत सारे रिसर्च हुए इसके ऊपर. जरूरी है कि हम इसको ऑन ग्राउंड इंप्लीमेंट करें. तो उस बारे में अगर हमें इंप्लीमेंट करना है तो वी नीड टू फोकस ऑन अप्रोच, और यू कैन अडॉप्ट दिस रेटिंग सिस्टम in the cities for a small pocket of a building or a larger development. It's दोनों cases में आप इसको रेफर कर सकते हैं, and then you can find out that how you can do it better. You might be doing it good, but we can make it good and more effective and more resilient by adopting some specific norms. Now construction approach की अगर हम बात करें, ऑल द सिविल इंजीनियर्स जो आज होंगे इस मीटिंग में आज, वो जानते होंगे इसके बारे में कि जियोलॉजिकल फैक्टर्स है, क्लाइमेटोलॉजिकल फैक्टर्स है, नेचुरल हैजर्ड फैक्टर्स है, बिल्डिंग फीचर्स है, अफोर्डेबल एस्पेक्ट्स है. तो हमें एक्सेसिबिलिटी, अफोर्डेबिलिटी और अवेलेबिलिटी, ये ऑल द एस्पेक्ट्स को ध्यान में रखते हुए सिटीज को डेवलप करना है हिल स्टेशंस पे. और कैसे करना है, एड्रेसिंग द लोकल कंस्ट्रक्शन टेक्निक्स आल्सो. So local materials like the earth building techniques, हम कहते हैं berm structures और हम कहते हैं bamboo construction, stone machinery, construction waste को कैसे हम reuse कर सकते हैं, जो कि आजकल major hill cities में हो रहा है. Major cities में भी they have tried to have a plant itself in the city to have the conversion of this waste construction and demolition waste into paper blocks and etc. So measures for earthen construction, bamboo construction, stone construction, timber, and all these you will find in the rating system also, so that it makes it easier for doing any kind of construction. So हमने different guidelines all over the world, different construction practices को study करके incorporate कर दिया है as annexures in this document, जो कि आप refer कर सकते हैं as part of IGBC Green Habitat Rating System. इसमें हमने एड्रेस किया है एयर, वाटर, लैंड, एनर्जी, वेस्ट, मोबिलिटी एंड ऑल द डिफरेंट वेरिड एस्पेक्ट्स रिलेटेड टू कार्बन एंड अदर्स क्लाइमेट चेंज. सो की इश्यूज रिलेटेड टू हिल सिटीज को स्पेसिफिकली ध्यान में रख के बनाया गया है. इट इज नॉट ए कॉपी पेस्ट ऑफ प्लेन्स में जो हम इंप्लीमेंट करते हैं. इट इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट व्हेन यू एड्रेस दिस, बिकॉज एयर इज वेरी क्लीन, but air is very strong also. There is cold winds, strong winds which can break your glasses. So we need to think how we design it. The wind speed is different. Water might be there, then the water flow is different. Water speed is different. The land might be there, but the land is in a constrained situation. तो ये सारी चीजें ध्यान में रखते हुए हमने ये the committee ने जो ये decide किया कि there has to be all stakeholders should have a role, city authority, developers, architects and citizens, and then 10 key aspects to be addressed in this rating system. So 10 एस्पेक्ट्स में पहला एस्पेक्ट है सॉइल इरोशन के बहुत सारे क्वेरीज है. जब भी हम विजिट करते हैं, कमिश्नर से मीटिंग्स करते हैं, इवन इन द सिटीज लाइक हैदराबाद वी डिस्कस दिस द इशू रिलेटेड टू सॉइल इरोशन एंड देन फ्लडिंग. सो लैंडस्लाइड्स, फॉलिंग ऑफ ट्रीज, ये सारे इश्यूज है, ये आपको भी पता है. पॉसिबल मेजर्स जो हम सजेस्ट कर रहे हैं इन द रेटिंग सिस्टम, उसमें काफी डिटेल में आप देख सकते हैं रेटिंग में, बट यहाँ पे मैं कुछ हाईलाइट करना चाहूंगा. जैसे सिटी सॉइल मैपिंग होनी चाहिए, जैसे कि कोलंबिया में मैंडेट किया गया है फॉर अप्रूवल प्रोसेस. सिटी सॉइल मैपिंग होनी चाहिए, सॉइल स्टडी होनी चाहिए. सेडिमेंटेशन कंट्रोल मैंडेटरी होना चाहिए, क्योंकि आपका सेडिमेंट फाइनली जाके रोड्स को और स्टॉर्म वाटर ड्रेन्स को चोक करने वाला है, और अगर वो वहां बच जाता है तो फाइनली वो लेक्स को सिल्ट से भर देगा. आपका लेक जो भरा हुआ दिख रहा होगा उसमें 3/4 सिर्फ सिल्ट भरा हुआ होगा. तो उससे क्या होगा, आपके रिवर की कैपेसिटी, आपके वाटर बॉडी की कैपेसिटी कम हो जाएगी और ओवरफ्लो आपके सारे रोड्स पे आएगा. सो हमें ये भी देखना है कि पीरियोडिक डीसिल्टिंग प्लान हो रहा है कि नहीं. वाटर पे अगर हम देखें, फ्लैश फ्लड्स, आपने ऐसे फोटोग्राफ्स बहुत देखे होंगे. फ्लैश फ्लड्स, पोल्यूशन ऑफ वाटर स्ट्रीम्स जो हिल स्टेशंस में हो रहा है, आप मानेंगे नहीं, 50% किसी भी हिल स्टेशन में वाटर लॉसेस हो जाते हैं, क्योंकि जो ट्रांसमिशन लॉसेस है वो काफी ज्यादा है, क्योंकि वी कैन नॉट डू इट अंडरग्राउंड. सो उसमें हमें अकॉर्डिंगली देयर इज अ रेशन्ड वाटर, मॉर्निंग इंटरमिटेंट सप्लाई या इवनिंग इंटरमिटेंट सप्लाई आ रहे हैं. लो रेन वाटर कैप्चर है इन हिल स्टेशंस. वो अगर आप शिलोंग में देखें 1800s ऑनवर्ड्स देयर द प्रैक्टिस हैज बीन, एक ड्रम लगाइए और आपके हर बिल्डिंग में आपको रेन वाटर पाइप मिल जाएगा जो उस ड्रम से कनेक्टेड होगा. तो जो हैवी रेनफॉल इंटेंसिटी जोन है उसमें आप एडिक्वेटली आप उस ड्रम को भरते हैं, एटलीस्ट फॉर 1 or 2 days आपके पास कुछ पानी रहता है, क्योंकि देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ इन द वाटर क्राइसिस इन द हिल सिटीज आल्सो. वुमेन एंड गर्ल्स, आज भी मैं देखता हूँ कभी कभी हिल सिटीज कुछ एरियाज में वो अपना टाइम स्पेंड करता है पानी बकेट्स में भर के अपने घर ले जाने के लिए. तो ये सबको अगर अवॉइड करना है, अवॉइड डेवलपमेंट इन फ्लड प्लेन्स एंड वेटलैंड्स, ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ एफ्लुएंट टू मेड मैंडेटरी. जो भी थोड़े जनरेशन 10 KLD के अराउंड हो, वहां पे अपना एक स्पेसिफिक STP हो. There should be dedicated brainstorming sessions in the government with the technical experts कि हम किस तरह के मॉड्यूल्स ला सकते हैं. जैसे थाईलैंड में they have come up with a large tumblers. सबके घर के कंपाउंड में एक बड़ा एक टम्बलर है जो कॉमनली डिजाइंड है फॉर द एंटायर थिंग, एंड देन दे आर एबल टू हार्वेस्ट वाटर देयर. हमें चाहिए उस तरह का कोई सिस्टम फॉर वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग, सब कुछ इस तरह का सिस्टम. STP के लिए भी, ट्रीटमेंट के लिए भी कुछ प्लांट बेस्ड ट्रीटमेंट हो सकता है, फाइटो रेमिडिएशन हो सकता है, आपका रूट this different kind of biological treatment systems. आप DWATS plans कर सकते हैं, decentralized waste water treatment हो सकता है. नेचुरल स्प्रिंग्स को आप स्प्रिंग सैंक्चुरीज बना सकते हैं, फर्टाइल रिवर वैलीज को एग्रीकल्चर के लिए यूज कर सकते हैं. एयर फॉरेस्ट फायर्स हो रहे हैं. दिस इज ऑल्सो ए इशू रिलेटेड टू द एयर क्वालिटी गोइंग बैड. कभी कभी हमें गाड़ी चलाते हुए वीविंग डिफिकल्टी होती है, तो वो बेसिकली ये फॉरेस्ट फायर भी कंट्रीब्यूट करता है इसमें. ओपन फायर्स और कैंप फायर्स को भी रिस्ट्रिक्शंस होनी चाहिए प्रॉपर्ली, सो दैट वी रेगुलेट दैट सिस्टम. और एक चीज मैं रह गया था बोलना कि आपका जो हिल स्टेशंस में जो सेप्टिक टैंक होते हैं, मेजरली हर जगह सेप्टिक टैंक होता है, उनका जो क्लीनिंग मैकेनिज्म है वो रेगुलेटेड होना चाहिए गवर्नमेंट से, कि ये ऑथराइज्ड एजेंसी है जो पीरियोडिकल इंटरवल्स में सेप्टिक टैंक को क्लीन करेंगे, और ये क्लीन करने के बाद इनको पर्टिकुलर फीकल स्लज एफएसएम फीकल स्लज एंड सैनिटेशन मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम्स में ले जाएंगे और इनकी ट्रीटमेंट करके वो वाटर को आगे फिर से आप एग्रीकल्चर में यूज कर सकते हैं या लैंडस्केपिंग में यूज कर सकते हैं, हॉर्टिकल्चर, एग्रीकल्चर, हिल स्टेशन में लॉट ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर इज आल्सो इन्वॉल्व, तो आप वहां यूज कर सकते हैं, या फिर पब्लिक टॉयलेट्स अगर रहेंगे सिटीज में वहां आप ट्रीटेड वाटर यूज कर सकते हैं फ्लशिंग के लिए, तो वो एस्पेक्ट भी इंपॉर्टेंट है। एयर पोल्यूशन जो हो रहा है हिल स्टेजेस में ड्यू टू कंस्ट्रक्शन आल्सो, सो सीएनडी वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, एयर पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल ड्यूरिंग मेजर्स, वो सारी चीजें इंपॉर्टेंट है। सो हमने कुछ सजेशंस बताए हैं यहाँ पे, जैसे एयर क्वालिटी मॉनिटरिंग एट कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट्स, रेस्ट्रिक्ट आउटडोर बर्निंग, एनकरेज नॉन मोटराइज्ड ट्रांसपोर्ट, साइकिलिंग को एनकरेज करे। Hyderabad has got a big cycling club. Denmark is one of the largest cycling clubs. So we can see Amsterdam, Copenhagen, जो बहुत सारे cities और cycling को encourage करते हैं. Hill cities भी कुछ areas में restricted कर सकता है for the vehicle movement, and they should make it completely cycle friendly. 100% cycle friendly zones. So that also will help. Green cover की अगर हम बात करें तो illegal logging है.
Summarize in next 3 minutes, please.
Okay, I'll try to do in 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes. Yeah. Illegal logging है, loss of endangered species है, human wildlife, these issues you are aware, so we need to restrict in the eco-sensitive zones. Resilience की बात करें तो बहुत सारा discussion already resilience पे हुआ है, तो we would say that there should be early warning systems, disaster management plans. Municipal solid waste की अगर हम बात करें तो difficult terrain है, land crisis है, so while dump sites form होते जा रहे हैं सारे hill stations में, उनको हमें avoid करना पड़ेगा. There has to be a involvement of experts to prepare the city solid waste master plan. सारे हिल सिटीज में हमारे सिटी वेस्ट मास्टर प्लान होने चाहिए. मिनिस्ट्री का एक डॉक्यूमेंट आया है, वेस्ट वाइज सिटीज, वेस्ट WISE वाइज सिटीज, वो डॉक्यूमेंट भी रेफर करें जिसमें सारे बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस मेंशन किए गए हैं बाय मिनिस्ट्री. एनवायरमेंटल मॉनिटरिंग एंड एनफोर्समेंट है. इंसेंटिवाइज रिसाइकलिंग को हमें इंसेंटिवाइज करना पड़ेगा. इट इज द ओनली वे आउट टू हैंडल द वेस्ट व्हिच इज जनरेटेड. वेस्ट का क्वांटम कम है, बस उसका मैनेजमेंट जरूरी है. टॉयलेट्स हम देख सकते हैं, सेप्टिक टैंक्स का इशू मैं कह रहा था. सो इन पब्लिक कन्वीनियंसेस की मैपिंग होनी चाहिए, कितने पब्लिक टॉयलेट्स हैं, जैसे कि टॉयलेट फाइंडर एप्स है in London. Many of the cities in Guwahati, they have planned with the and integrated with the Google to identify all the toilets marked in that map. So it helps them कि आप टॉयलेट फाइंडर ऐप रहेगा तो उसके अकॉर्डिंग आप पेट्रोल पंप, रेस्टोरेंट, हर जगह आप देख सकते हैं. मैंडेट करिए नो टॉयलेट नो बिल्डिंग अप्रूवल. एंड देन टॉयलेट का वेस्ट कहाँ जा रहा है, कई बार वो वेस्ट जाके सॉलिड वेस्ट से भी मिल जाता है. मोबिलिटी एंड पार्किंग का एक मेजर नेक्सस है जिसकी वजह से कई जगह पे लॉन्ग क्यूज हम देख रहे हैं, पहुंचने को डिले हो रहा है, बहुत कंजेशन हो रहा है, एनक्रोचमेंट बाय द हॉकर्स. तो डेडिकेटेड हॉकर पॉलिसी आ सकती है, हॉकर जोन को डिफाइन कर सकते हैं, जैसे न्यू टाउन कोलकाता में दे डिफाइन सम डेडिकेटेड हॉकर जोन्स. इन हिल स्टेशंस दे कैन प्लान डेडिकेटेड पार्किंग पॉलिसी आल्सो. बंडल्ड पार्किंग हो सकती है. अगर आप मॉल बना रहे हैं तो आपको अपनी पार्किंग उसके अंदर ही प्लान करनी पड़ेगी. यू कैन नॉट प्लान योर पार्किंग ऑन द रोड. ब्राउनफील्ड रीडेवलपमेंट है, जैसे काफी सारे ब्राउनफील्ड इंडस्ट्रियल यूनिट्स है, तो आप कैसे उस तरह पे उसमें यू कैन यू रीयूटिलाइज देम. जैसे कि एग्रीकल्चरल वेस्टलैंड्स होते हैं जो ICAR डिफाइन करता है, वाटरलॉग्ड मार्शी लैंड्स, लैंड अफेक्टेड बाय सैलिनिटी, उनको आइडेंटिफाई करें. और इंडस्ट्रियल एबंडेंट लैंड्स आइडेंटिफाई करें, जैसे कि ओडिशा ने भी किया है इन मेनी ऑफ द माइनिंग जोन्स. सो उनको कन्वर्ट करके आप प्रॉपर सिटीज में डेवलप कर सकते हैं. तो ये ऑलरेडी स्टॉकटन हांगकांग में हो रहा है, इंटरनेशनली बहुत जगहों पे दे प्लानिंग. एफिशिएंसी ऑफ सर्विसेज इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड अगर मैं आपको 15 बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस के कुछ ग्लिम्सेस दिखाऊं यहाँ पे, जैसे सिंगापुर हैज गॉट ए डेडिकेटेड विजन वेयर दे प्लान कि उनके विजन में 700 किलोमीटर लेंथ ऑफ साइकिल लेन होगा, उनका रेल नेटवर्क कितना होगा, कितने लोग पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट यूज करेंगे. अगर आप पॉलिसीज की बात करें, इट इज टू लॉन्ग, बट वी कैन टॉक अबाउट दैट कैसे हम डेवलपमेंट की कर सकते हैं इको फ्रेजाइल जोन्स में. इन रेटिंग सिस्टम यू विल फाइंड ग्लिम्सेस ऑफ दिस ऑलरेडी इन दैट. सो आप देख सकते हैं वेटलैंड इन्वेंटरी एंड असेसमेंट्स हुए हैं, कई जगह इंस्टीट्यूशंस को इन्वॉल्व कर सकते हैं. IITs, NITs एंड द की एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस कैन गेट इन्वॉल्व. जैसे आप इस फोटोग्राफ में देख सकते हैं साधना नेशनल पार्क. ये पार्क पूरा developed by it's a man-made nature park, completely man-made with 1 acre 81 acres of land. ये यहाँ पे कोई भी फॉरेस्ट नहीं था, but सूरत has created its own forest called as साधना nature park. फिर आप and many of the hill cities में देख सकते हैं कि flood mitigation के लिए paved road को उन्होंने that allows storm water to filter through into a water reservoir. ऐसे बहुत सारे strategies हो सकते हैं. There need to be focus on DRR strategy and master plan. आपको हॉटस्पॉट्स आइडेंटिफाई करने चाहिए, जैसे हिल स्टेशंस में भी वाटर लॉगिंग हॉटस्पॉट्स अगर है. सिटी सॉइल मैपिंग प्रॉपर्ली होनी चाहिए. जैसे वाटर बॉडीज है, तो हम कहते हैं कि पिछले 20 साल में हमने हजारों वाटर बॉडीज लॉस्ट हो गए हमारे. तो कैसे हम क्रिएट न्यू वाटर बॉडीज, लो लाइंग एरिया पे वी कैन क्रिएट आवर ओन वाटर बॉडीज, फेज वाइज पीरियोडिक प्लान कर respective norms should be there. Tree inventory का एक focus रहे ताकि जैसा कि tree per capita है इंडिया का, it is quite low, it's only 42 और global average है around 420. So it is quite high as compared to the global average where we need to increase our tree cover. और tree cover के साथ साथ जियो टैगिंग भी जरूरी है tree cover का. ये मैं कह रहा था environmentally degraded areas का कैसे mapping होना चाहिए, और this is one of the World Bank study which also highlights की concerns क्या क्या है. पहले concerns को avoid करें. So, और ये है आपका एग्जांपल फ्रॉम द स्टॉकटन, सिटी ऑफ स्टॉकटन, कैसे उन्होंने मैपिंग किया हुआ है सिटी के अंदर, कहाँ कहाँ ये इस तरह के ब्राउनफील्ड डेवलपमेंट्स है जहां हम रीयूज कर सकते हैं फॉर अर्बन डेवलपमेंट. देन पॉलिसीज हो सकती है, एंड आपका सिंगापुर इज बेस्ट एग्जांपल इन एशिया, बिकॉज हम देख सकते हैं वहां कैसे उन्होंने 46% से भी ज्यादा उनका ग्रीन कवर है. सो हम कहते हैं सिटी विद इन ए गार्डन सिंगापुर को. सो जैसे आपका एक्सेसिबिलिटी की बात करें तो वहां है 66 स्क्वायर मीटर पर कैपिटा सिंगापुर में, और इंडिया में हम एक्चुअली वी आर नॉट एबल टू मीट समटाइम्स द वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ 9 स्क्वायर मीटर पर कैपिटा इन सिटीज. सो वो भी हमें देखना है कि कैसे हम 9 तक पहुंचे और उससे भी काफी आगे बढ़े. और द रेटिंग सिस्टम विल एड्रेस द क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ ऑल्सो. जो ग्लोबल इंडिकेटर है MERCER का, उससे भी अलाइंड है रेटिंग सिस्टम. एयर क्वालिटी मॉनिटरिंग से भी रिलेटेड पैरामीटर्स देखे जाते हैं रेटिंग में. बैरियर फ्री एक्सेसिबिलिटी, जैसे कि बर्लिन कहता है कि 100% बर्लिन विल बी बैरियर फ्री. वी नीड टू एटलीस्ट एड्रेस दिस इन द पब्लिक टॉयलेट्स, पब्लिक बिल्डिंग्स. अगर मेरे साथ कोई इंसिडेंट हो जाता है तो मैं अगर पार्क जाना चाहता हूं तो मेरे को, अगर पार्क जाने के लिए मेरे पास एक रैंप एडिक्वेट नहीं है और वहां जाने के लिए एक रिवॉल्विंग डोर लगा हुआ है, तो इट डजंट एनकरेज मी टू गो टू द पार्क एज ए डिफरेंटली एबल्ड ऑन ए व्हील चेयर. सो हमें देखना है कि कैसे ये बिल्डिंग्स, पब्लिक टॉयलेट्स, रोड क्रॉसिंग्स, हर जगह वो डिफरेंटली एबल्ड को एड्रेस किया जाए. सिंगापुर हैज 40% ऑफ द वाटर इज कमिंग फ्रॉम द ट्रीटेड वाटर. 9 जिसको हम न्यू वाटर कह रहे हैं, NEW एंड वाटर में W is common, they are calling it new water. 40% of the requirement is there met, and many of the other international examples are also there where they are doing the lake development and DWAT systems. Urban agriculture का भी very important nexus है. कोविड में हमने देखा कि जो अर्बन एरियाज है उनको फूड की they were getting issues of addressing the food security because villages से urban areas में नहीं आ पा रहा था during COVID. So sometime we need to plan our food in our urban areas. One good thing in hilly areas is hilly areas are very close to agriculture also. Urban agriculture definitely need to get a place in the master plan also. सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट में अगर देखिए कैलिफोर्निया में आपका एक मैप देख सकते हैं आप, उन्होंने सारे रिसाइकलर्स को मैप किया हुआ है. आई थिंक दिस इज वेरी मच रिक्वायर्ड इन द हिल स्टेशंस कि वी नीड ऑल द लिस्ट ऑफ रिसाइकलर्स अवेलेबल इन द हिल स्टेशन ऑफ शिमला और मनाली, एंड देन पीपल कैन गो एंड गिव देयर बॉटल्स, गिव देयर टायर्स, गिव देयर एनी अदर थिंग्स व्हिच दे वांट टू गिव देम, एंड दैट कैन बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू वेस्ट टू रिसोर्स, ट्रैश टू कैश, and refuse to resource. So it's very important that
request you to please summarize.
1 minute, Aspia, I'll be closing in last 1 minute.
Yes, please.
A few slides. So this is like Hong Kong, which is a hilly, which is 60% hilly terrain. You can see here also that it is all people are all well integrated. First and last mile connectivity. Most of you are aware. And this is like Hong Kong, which is 60% hilly. They are also targeting 30-30 campaign, saying that 30% energy reduction will be there. Or the city of Rizal or the Michigan, they are targeting the 100% LED or not. Or solar water heating, there is a huge opportunity when we are in hilly areas. For the bathing, we don't use the water which is used by electricity, but these are some of the hotels, toilet and public toilet and other things which I already shared with you. Dehradun is a very good example on the parking policy. Mountain livelihood, our colleagues will again share in the next presentation. So I will try to end up here, but our rating system, when was developed in last year, from 2013 to 2018, the 5 years have been a rigorous study on all the national codes and standards, which you can see here. Plus, many of the experts from this are actually speaking in this today program. So please share your questions, have your discussions, and these are the many of the international guidelines which are there. There is no rating system worldwide for the hill cities, but we have a rating system in India. The first rating system in the world has been developed here. Many technical committees have happened, and this has been adopted first time in the world by the Kedarnath. So we invite you for the Green Building Congress, focusing on net zero and many other aspects related to buildings and decarbonizing cities. So I hope this I could give a small capsule of the whole thing. The Green Hill Habitat can give it to the audience in the hill cities, and I know this 10% of the population is concerned how we do the hill centric in development in this all hill cities. So over to the next speaker. Over to you, Aspia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saurav. Thank you for the holistic presentation where you highlighted various aspects of design and top 15 best practices and top best ways to plan and supported by various case studies. Thank you so much. Moving to our next speaker, last but not the least, But before that, I would request all the participants कि अगर आपके पास कोई questions हो, आप please chat box में उसको डालिए कि हम end of the session उसको discuss कर सकें. So I take this privilege to introduce architect Prashant Pradhan, who is a graduate from CEPT Ahmedabad and has completed his post-graduation from Berlage Institute, Netherlands. He's gained experience working in offices in Amsterdam and New York and has taught at City of University in New York. In 2007, he started Prashant Pradhan Architects (PPA), a design firm based in Gangtok, focusing on multidisciplinary design. The practice does not distinguish between urban architecture and interior design, considering each discipline being seamlessly integrated. PPA has offices in Gangtok, Siliguri currently and has projects across the country from Meghalaya, Sikkim, West Bengal, Delhi, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Telangana. He's also a visiting professor at Faculty of Design in CEPT University at Ahmedabad, teaching course called Contextualizing Interior Space Making, dealing with hospitality design. He also delivered several lectures online and offline across the country from IIT Roorkee, ASADI, IIID Ahmedabad, Forum of Architects, etc. Sir, I welcome you and request you to take the presentation forward on the practices of buildings and hills. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to thank um, you guys for inviting me. And it is, like a great honor for me to be here amidst so many great stalwarts of the industry. What I am going to do is basically what I do best is kind of show the work that we are, currently involved with, or what we have done over the number of years our practice has been alive in the hills of Sikkim. So I think I'll just, start sharing my screen. Yeah. This is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's very well visible. Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
So my talk, it's going to be brief. It's called Practice of Building in the Hills. So by practice, I would mean, like a design office or anything that has to do with action as opposed to theory. By building, I would mean structure or the process of construction. And the hills are fragile topographical environments. My foray has always been, my thesis has always been something called form follows context. And basically our context is this, we have the hills, we have the mountains, and then that leading onto the plain. So this is the topography. And this is a very fragile environment where we are always prone to earthquakes, as we saw in the previous speakers, how they have elaborated on the types of disasters we've had based on the earthquakes. I'm sorry, my Hindi is really not good enough to present anything in Hindi, so I will have to resort to English only. I'm really sorry about that. So we live in a very fragile environment, but it's not only to do with the earthquake and the fault lines lying there. It is because of that we have this very interesting geography, and this is something that I learned in class 7 or 8 during my school years, and that's the sea currents that come from Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, and how they impact our entire hills, because the clouds cannot go beyond the Himalayas. The Himalayas form a barrier, and all the rain, the clouds filled with rain, they end up falling on this side, and that's how Tibet ends up becoming in the rain shadow. So it is relatively dry in Tibet, but Nepal, Bhutan, and Sikkim, and the entire region, which is also the Terai, is extremely wet. And that essentially causes this sort of disaster, landslide. And this is with buildings, it exacerbates the kind of disasters that we have. So form follows context essentially is then adapting architecture to the environment. I think we have to really stop thinking that we can adapt the environment to the buildings that we desire, but we have to go back to adapting our architecture to the environment. The first project I will run briefly through is a proposal for an education city in Bhutan. It's at a planning level. We were invited to, propose a kind of an education city in 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 this area between Thimphu and Paro. So we made a computer model based on the contours we were provided, and this was the site. The first thing we did is to do a kind of a slope analysis on identifying which are the very steep slopes, the moderate slopes, and the very gentle slopes, making sectional profiles there. What is really interesting in working in Bhutan was that, they have land use based on the slope is something that I think, we need to do here in India as well. I don't know if it's done already, but this was really fascinating to understand that certain infrastructure or certain building types, land use could only be thought about or built on certain slopes. So if you look at 0 to 5% infrastructure or high density residential could be planned there. 5 to 10 is urban development, high density residential, commercial, and so on. So the entire land use is based on the slopes of the hills. Also, on the site, we found that there's a river going through along the periphery of the sites. So we thought recreational activities that are close to the river could be placed closer to the river. Then the area above the river was slightly more steep, so we thought we could plan small villages that would be basically the housing for the university. All the students and the staff could all be staying there, and they could be planned in a design similar to the villages that are existing predominantly in Bhutan. The central space, which was the flattest, was reserved for all the sporting activities and sort of the other recreational activities like football and basketball and parks and recreation. And the areas right on top is where the university buildings, the academic buildings, could be located. And that would also give them a sort of a vantage point looking out into the valley. And these are the structures we have thought, could be part of the academic colleges. This was sort of the commercial hub of the university that could look something like this. This is also in Thimphu. To connect them, because it's a slope, this is something that they use in Switzerland and parts of France, where they have something called funiculars. I mean, accessibility is a really, really important aspect of living in the hills, and we can't have vertical elevators. I've seen one in Shimla that works, but I don't know, we don't have mechanical ways of transporting people. So that's why the roads end up being so choked. And in Sikkim too, we have a terrible problem of, mobility. So, using funiculars like this, I thought is a really good way of mitigating that and to be able to access. So this is a basic master plan that we came up with, and the project didn't really go any further from there. The second project I'll show you is a proposal for slum upgradation in Gangtok. I was part of something called Rajiv Awas Yojana. So we had identified the different slums in Gangtok. This is a sort of map which shows where the slums in Gangtok exist. So there was one slum chosen for the pilot project, and that slum was called Bhanugram, as highlighted on this map. So this is sort of the profile of that slum. And this slum was broken into 3 different categories, one being where the pakka houses are, second being where the semi-pakka, semi-kacha houses are, and the third, it was all kacha houses. This is the design strategy. What was really interesting in this Google photo is that the area below that sort of triangle has no building. And it has no building for a reason that is sort of the most fragile land in all of Gangtok almost. So you can't really build there. So people, even though Gangtok is overbuilt, they found this area is being practically unbuildable. So that area close to the triangle is sort of a confluence of 2 of these very large watersheds, these very large streams. They come there. And the first thing in dealing with that with the slum there. Basically, there's a large number of people who live there in kacha structures. And in dealing with this was to first deal with the water. How do you deal with the water that flows? You have to allow the water to flow, and you also had to provide habitat solutions for the people there. So we thought that we could mix and match these two and sort of have this as the zone for the new housing. This central area would be the area to be left vacant. And this area around where we could strengthen these joras or these streams, we could also use that structure to dovetail some sort of building, light building to be built in that area. So we were given 25 square meters as the size for every house. So we divided that into 3 by 3, 9 square meters and 3 squares of that. So it was 27 square meters. So in these 3 squares, we had the 1 square, which was a bedroom, 1 square, which was sort of the living area and the dining. The living area and the bathroom, kitchen, and dining was one of the squares. And we sort of placed it in this sort of L shape. And this would be the design of one dwelling unit. Mirroring that unit would make it sort of a C-shaped, and mirroring that would make it a square shape with a courtyard in between. So all along that stream, this is how we thought we could locate the dwelling units. So the strengthening of the choras are integrated with the structure of the dwelling, thereby using minimal material. The design is able to capitalize on the structural members without adding any extra load on the soil. So this is how we had imagined how this structure would come up. So this would create a kind of a private courtyard in between, and then you'd have this ground or ground plus one structures, which would be built with extremely light materials. This didn't go forward because Sikkimese rules for owning of property is very complicated. So this kind of didn't move forward. Another project which, after learning from these two projects, we sort of designed this university in Sikkim. It is, close to some amazing views. So earlier we talked about, the tourism and how the hills attract a lot of tourism. So this university has 3 different types of schools: advanced professional development, innovative education, and Buddhist studies. So this is a contour superimposed on the Google Earth image. So this is where the road was, the current road. And then we proposed the university to be designed in such a way that there would be one road taking off from that road and coming back to join this very same road. Based on what we studied from the slopes, we identified different program types to be located based on how steep or how gradual these slopes were. And we thought the residential, which was the largest component of this, could be a 3-story building. The institutional could be a 4-story building. The cultural aspects could be 3-story, and a commercial would be just single story. So this is how the overall ground coverage of this university would be organized. So the colleges would be divided between 9 buildings along the slope in this way. The residential would be divided in that way. The cultural zone here, and we had a large football field in Sikkim. I think it's very important that you provide a football field wherever you can. We use this symbol, the infinite knot, to sort of bring the whole thing together. And this is what was designed. So this is the convention hall with the administration block, a library, museum, a sectional profile. This is how the residential blocks, inspired also by hill architecture from Tibet, and the different colleges were designed in this manner. So we were very happy that this university got cabinet approval, and now I think they are looking for some funds to be able to start construction on this. Moving on to built projects that we have completed in the office. this is walkways and light facilities in Namnang in Gangtok. So this is Gangtok, which is quite sprawling, as you can see. And one thing unique to Gangtok is that people walk everywhere and they're dedicated walkways. MG Marg is one such place where people, would at one point it was full of cars, and then they eliminated all the cars, and now people really, they encourage people to walk there. So this is the highway along which there is a dedicated walkway. This is MG Marg. So there seemed to be a gap, which was, not connecting the walkway to, the MG Marg to the highway. So this was the walkway that was designed by us. The first thing we did is sort of an analysis on trying to identify certain areas that were very critical to this. So the problems were there was a very narrow road, there was very heavy traffic. So the first thing that we also noticed was that there was no real area for designing a walkway. So we gave them a solution as to cantilever or to create a structure, a steel structure beyond the road after improving the condition of the road. So this is the pedestrian walkway. One thing that really bothers me when you're walking in the hills is, you're always holding an umbrella. And in a crowded street, the umbrella is always, either above you or below you when you cross people. So we thought, why not we cover it and just have a covered walkway all the way through. So it would give a nice experience. And then finally, we got this thing built. And there were some problems with it, of course, as usual in most projects. But we're just happy that basically it provided like a very safe place for children to go to school and for people to go to office using this walkway. We also provided public space, which didn't exist in that part of Gangtok town. The other project, quickly, I want to show you is something called the Kisan Bazaar in Namchi. So Namchi is sort of between Darjeeling and Gangtok and Kalimpong on the side. So in Namchi, there is also like MG Marg, they learn from MG Marg, and they also have sort of like a public space, non-pedestrian public space. Oh, sorry, a pedestrian public space, non-car public space there. So we thought, it's very close to the site. We could kind of bring that public space onto the building. And Kisan Bazaar didn't really require, Namchi didn't really require Kisan Bazaar, but we thought it required a huge parking. So we thought we could, in fact, create a large parking so people come, park their cars there and then enjoy the public space, or, leave their cars and then walk around more. So we created, the cold storage right in the heart of, the building, and then the shops were in the middle, and then we had parking on the outside. So this is sort of like a sectional profile of what this could be. What was really interesting is that we had the opportunity to link this road on top and at the bottom through the building, which was very successful. That also reduced a lot of traffic. So on one side, on either side of the building, we had ramps. And as we went up to the third floor, the Kisan Bazaar really started in the middle, but we had this ramps go all the way up and then meet this building on top. And then you were able to drive into the building, and through the building, you were able to exit on the lower floor, lower side of the building. So we used that public space, and brought it all the way from what is called the Central Park onto the terrace of this building. And we sort of created public space there. These are initial sketches. This is finally what got built. I realize in government projects, there is a fair amount of challenge in, building and designing there, but we were again very happy that this finally kind of got built in this way. The last project I want to show you is kind of like a luxury project. It is the Vivanta that we've just completed a couple of years ago in the middle of COVID. So it's sort of very close to the airport in Pakyong, in this town called Pakyong, close to Gangtok. So this is sort of the contour map of the site, where you have stable land and fragile, unstable land. So obviously we chose to build in the most stable land. So in the sectional profile, it looks something like this. The first action we did was to cut the land to make it stable for habitation. And as you can see, we did not cut the land very drastically. We just cut the ground very slightly. The stage 2 was the retaining of the earth. So we created these low retaining walls to retain the earth wherever required. And the third part was to construct the RCC floors, which created as much open space, in fact, more open space than there was built. So it was a series of cascading courtyards in the middle. And this was the final sectional profile that we created. This is an axonometric of the entire building with the banquet hall below and the entry in the middle. And this is the final structure that got built. These cascading courtyards, allow the tourist or the visitor to really be connected with everything all around while still being protected from the sides. So these are the cascading courtyards, and then this was the main reception block of the building, where there is a lot of light. So from the outside also, it's very, very open, so you can get a lot of light inside. The central areas were slightly dense, but we managed to get light from the top. So we reduced the need for a lot of illumination. These are some of the rooms that look out onto the hills of Gangtok. This is a view of the swimming pool. We also used local technology, but not on the outside of the building. We used this technology and brought it inside the building to create partition walls. And this is sort of the final view of the building. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for explaining all the details of various projects. Indeed, they all were so beautiful and mesmerizing, and seeing various structures. Thank you very much. And this brings to the end of our session today. We are open to questions. So as I see, we already have a question from Mr. Piyush, who's asking about the structure proposed are RCC frame structure only. So I'm assuming, sir, it is for you, Professor Prashant.
Yeah.
The question is from Mr. Piyush. So he's asking if the structures that were proposed are the RCC frame structure only?
Yes, predominantly all RCC frame structures except the walkway where it was all in steel.
Right. Thank you. Participants, if you have any questions, you can please type it down in the chat box. Meanwhile, I have a couple of questions for the speakers. So this is for Professor Chandan Ghosh. Sir, I hope you're available. Professor Chandan Ghosh. Okay, we'll check with sir. Moving on, sir, Architect Prashant, I have a question for you as well. So if you have shown us various case studies across in different typology as well, ranging from housing and universities, etc. So what was that one particular strategy, if you can emphasize, that has significantly contributed in making Himachal Pradesh or Sikkim more resilient to face the environmental challenge while also promoting the sustainable development? If you could highlight one or two successful strategies.
Okay, one is, definitely locating the building, knowing exactly where to put the building. I think if you have a large site, I think that is very, very important, very crucial. Where do you locate the building? The second thing is orienting the building. Locating it also means orienting, where you have passive methods of heating, because we don't require cooling, we require heating. So having openings so that the sun is always streaming into the building. I think the most important strategy is really working with the contours, working with the slope. So you design your building that will adapt to the slope that's given to you. If it has a very steep slope, like we had in Kisan Bazaar, we had to make a tall building which was hugging the slope. I think the real strategy is to hug the slope as much as possible, and you build with the slope, and you don't create some really crazy tall structures which have a lot of load on the soil, I think.
Right. Rightly said, sir. Thank you. As I see, we have one more question from the participant. So what is the difference between sustainable architecture and cost-effective architecture?
Is that for me?
Yes. Thank
Sustainable architecture is sort of like an umbrella term, I think,
You're right.
I think for me, I don't go about trying to make my architecture sustainable. I just try to make it sensible. And if you design sensibly without wasting resources, whether resources is cash, whether it is anything, whether it's like cost or the environment or the ecology, you just try to minimize all resources without wasting them, and having the best way of implementing them is the approach we take. And then if it ends up being sustainable, it's sort of like not a byproduct, but it just it's there.
Thank you, sir. So we have another question from the participant for Professor Chandan. So, sir, the participant wanted to know the name of the grass used for erosion prevention, as mentioned in your slides.
It is locally called, like in North India, it is khas, or it is vetiver grass. Vetiver is a Tamil name. It is very well known in more than 130 countries that who have taken the grass from our India, and they are using it for erosion control, even many other purpose. Like vetiver oil is very good. In market, you can see the oil is a perfume. It is used in perfume profusely. And then it is also used for erosion control, flood control. It is used for even for livelihood also, many other purpose. So it is vetiver grass is very well known across the country. Country wise also it is having different name. Like even in our states also, in Tamil Nadu it is called vetiver. Then in North India it is called khas. Then in Kerala it is called ramacham. So every state have got different name, and different varieties are there, but which I could not show because of the paucity of time. But we used to conduct 3 to 5 days of program on the application of this vetiver grass in various fields. Even it has got, even it can clean the water naturally, like in a pond, which pond is totally dead, fish life is dead. So floating vetiver grass help in cleaning the pond because by biophytoremediation. So there are hundreds of application of this grass, especially in various areas, including livelihood.
Thank you, sir. Maybe with your permission, if we can share the details, we'll pass it on to all the participants. Colonel Shailesh, sir, you have a question, please? Yes.
I wanted to respond to the question which was uh, answered by Prashantji. Sustainable architecture or cost-effective architecture. So when we talk about these things, firstly, it's a initial cost or cost of a life cycle of a building. If we talk about life cycle of a building, so sustainable will always be cost effective. Presently, I see a lot of green pro products and products, they all are cost effective. So if someone thinks to make a building green, you need to spend money. No, it is misnomer, it is incorrect information. So whatever product earlier was specifically for green, they are now common. LED lighting, uh, invert, uh, inverter based ACs, insulated walls. All these are common building materials nowadays. Earlier they were concepts, they were expensive, but nowadays they all are part of our normal inventory. So if somebody has designed a sustainable architecture, that will be cost effective ab initio and very cost effective in a longer run. This point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Also, we have done various research to understand how much of an additional cost will be applied if we are doing a sustainable architecture. And very fortunately, we are to know that it is almost equivalent to zero. So if you're constructing a regular building and we are constructing a sustainable building, the construction of the cost is almost the same. And in the longer run, maybe they'll get much more cheaper as compared to the regular buildings. So my next question is to Professor Chandan Ghosh. Sir, wanted to know that if there are any policies or incentives that are going to be adopted uh, for promoting the sustainable construction practices. Is there any such discussion that is happening across in the government?
In fact, whatever construction practices are going on, we all go by hazard-wise or risk-wise hazard zonations are there. Whether it is earthquake hazard zonation or wind hazard zonation or even tsunami hazard zonation, all this, there is a vulnerability atlas made and which is being updated even up to district level or village level. And then most of the constructions, they are done on the basis of certain, equations, mechanics, formula that which are taught in architecture planning as well as in structure or in civil engineering as a broader umbrella. And they are experts. They form some guideline codes. Bureau of Indian Standard in our country, they have made to this extent that several say divisions are there. So most well known is the National Building Code. The National Building Code 2016 contains a dedicated chapter about sustainable constructions, as well as what are the facility, administration, and fire related thing, earthquake related thing, foundation related thing, and then sustainable construction management aspects. Profusely they have developed in 2016 new version. Another version now, meetings are going on. We are part of various committee. The new version will be coming up in 2026. So a lot of such, all these things, whatever construction that we are talking about, whether it is a tunnel, whether it is a building or retaining wall or soil nailing, everything are having in this National Building Code together. And on the other hand, there are more than 2000 codes are there, total publication by Bureau of Indian Standards. So all constructions, whether it is sustainable or not, it is to be defined first based on the donation that what are the design parameters and structural design. And then now climate is also be taken part. And also we have to take part the what are the local materials available. So these are all included, and what are the testing and what are the during construction, what are the checkups to be made, and after construction, even after 30 years of construction, what are the health conditions of the buildings. So these are all very widely elaborated in the various codes and guidelines. In addition to that, from disaster aspect, because we are looking at National Institute of Disaster Management, NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, they have been doing a lot of work, especially immediately after the disaster, what are the things went wrong, documentation, and after how recovery is to be made. For that also detailed estimates are being done, and then what are the preparedness have to be done, how response is to be done, and what are the lessons being learned. So a wide variety of training and capacity building as well as guideline in NDMA website and IDM website, Ministry of Home Affairs website. All these guidelines are available free. They are all are because we are the government entity, and all these guidelines are available. So participants and everyone, they can look into this guideline. They can whether it is flood, earthquake, even say landslides. So some guidelines are there which for general public they can get them that what is the important issues of each of these various kinds of disasters.
Thank you, sir. My last question is to Mr. Saurav. So as part of IGBC, we have done various certifications and we have worked with various urban local bodies. So I wanted to understand if you can define in a small nutshell that what were the specific challenges that the cities, let's talking about more of hill-centric cities, that the cities has faced balancing the economic development with the environmental preservation. So somewhere the city has to look at its growth as term of its infrastructure and also the economic. So how is that balance, the challenges balancing the both economic and environmental centric that we can do? We can just explain and define it to us, please.
Yeah, I think a very pertinent question related to the subject. When we talk about economy, economy is related to industry, related to agriculture, related to tourism in our hill states. In all the three can be sustainable tourism, which is ecotourism. When it is an industry, there has to be a look into industries which are not the orange industry or red industry. We need to look at how we can adopt a green principles in selecting the industry, then the entire process in that industry and how industry has to take care of the end of life, the material or through the process, how it has to be green industry, more or less. As we know, the clusters are coming up as one district, one cluster mission has come up. Many government missions are aligned, how every state need to focus on specific products so that India develops everything for India as well as for the world. So thirdly, we talk about the agriculture. I think India has to showcase the whole world what is sustainable agriculture means. And when it has to talk about agriculture, it is the 70% of the water is going to agriculture in the country, and 30% is only taken by cities and other areas. So agriculture is very, very water intensive, like Israel does, how 55 to 60% is coming from the treated water. I think it's a high time we plan cities in collaboration with the village, so that we plan for the regional development, and we take all the water which is generated in the cities, treat them and send it to the nearby villages for reuse. That is only one aspect in terms of water, how we can address the water aspect. Now, talking about the water bodies, I think that is the major crux where all the water bodies are located in our hill cities. How we can plan to have a dedicated watershed development plan, dedicated preservation and protection measures for the embankments, and how we can have dedicated this sanctuaries development, and how we can look into the desilting regularly, or there need to be a proper department of public gardens in every hill state. I would say every state in the country should have a department of public gardens. But in a hill state, it is all the more important because they need to focus on not agriculture or gardens as a subject of decoration or subject of just a part of, but because they are going to contribute to the whole gamut of activities. Like in Meghalaya, I am basically born and brought up in Meghalaya. So we know the Meghalaya Basin Development Agency. We know there are many such kind of developments which are focused on water related aspects, because water can be a boon and bane both. It can have both the sides of the coin, because one side it can be sustainability, and at other side it can also lead to disasters and need to be addressed in terms of resilience. So until and unless we address sustainability and resilience, we will miss the bus. We have to address both the sides, as very well said by Mr. Prashant also, that it is not that we have to just think about sustainability architecture as a specific subject. We need not think as a specific design when we do sustainable. We need to think from our mind what is local and what is specific to the region is sustainable. Sustainable is what our ancestors have already done in that region. So all the hill architecture which is prevalent in the region is by design a green architecture or hill architecture. We need to just look into what is the latest technology available so that we can make a perfect blend and convert that thing into a proper sustainable architecture. And in the planning aspect, if we say, I think there is a lot more discussion required like this, where like all the planning experts should also think of the major core committees when they have the plan coming up for the industrial clusters, how we can make, and slowly it is becoming a norms in all the tendering stage itself, that it should become a green industrial cluster, it should become a green agriculture when they plan for it, or there's a tourism project, it has to be an ecotourism project. So these are slowly becoming an integral part of this. And I would say India is worldwide, it is known for spirituality. And today, worldwide, India is also known for sustainability, because sustainability is in our genes. If we look at our great grandfathers, it has been a lot of learnings where we can actually learn from that. So I think hill stations, we need to look back to our traditional architecture, the hill architecture. And I think tomorrow's session will also focus on that, the mountain livelihood and disaster resilience, where the livelihood itself of the mountain, which is related to the conservation and related to the hill architecture concepts, all can be part of the whole new gamut of activities. We cannot create a new hill, new smart hill cannot be created with after forgetting the entire history that has been there for that hill town. So I think that would like to answer that question, that government support is already coming. Himachal Pradesh is already giving additional incentive. Uttarakhand is giving additional incentive. Many of the hill states have also started looking at green building as a strategy for development. But I think it is need to be beyond buildings itself. It need to be for the entire city, where hill habitat we are now discussing this, so that the entire development in the city can go more of a climate resilient, climate responsive, and more of a hill specific or hill centric development. Because our Prime Minister is also very keen on people centric development. I would say without considering a hill centric development, it will not be a people centric development. I think more discussions with the common man is required, though it's a technical session. We have tried to convert it into a YouTube video, which is available, can be shared to larger masses, and the discussions have happened on many specific aspects. So I think it will bring up more questions, more problem statements, and then as a council and with the support of key experts like you, who are part of the national committee of the Green Hill Habitat, Professor Chandan Ghosh, Mr. Prashant, many of them have contributed to that. We will again fine tune that with the inputs, and then definitely there will be a lot more. Professor Ghosh, you would like to say something further to this? To answer the question.
When we talk, as you have rightly said, about the resilient construction, we have used this word so many times, and sustainable constructions. But they're a very beautiful word, but word has to come into action. And when we visit after every event that happens, whether it is Yoshimat or whether it is Roda or whether it is like whatever happened in Himachal or Jammu Kashmir, wherever we are going, that the constructions that which are going on, the kind of motivation that people had earlier, maybe 20, 25 years back, or the whole concrete construction that which has replaced the already replaced the conventional like Koti Banal architecture, like Dhaji Diwari, like in that, which are not affordable in today's, because we cannot exploit any living like trees. So that is why many alternative material has come. I have shown in my presentation how lightweight construction has to take way rather than concrete constructions in the hilly area, because lightweight constructions are 1/3, even they are lighter than the water. So lighter than the water means concrete is 2.5 times the weight of the water. So our hill loving people, or whoever in the 12 hill states are there, or even in the south, Tamil Nadu also, same thing that is always coming, that our hills are getting destabilized because of the rainfall and landslides are happening. And more so, some of the developmental work in the form of road that were cutting the hill vertically 30, 40, 50 meter vertically, which is very much unethical from the concept and analysis of civil engineering, or the way that we analyze a slope. So the haphazard constructions that going on, and the kind of load that, the kind of problem and stress that hills are facing, now we have to emphasize on the type of construction as the very topic of this seminar, which I'm really happy to be part of this, that eco-restoration of our hill habitat. Eco-restoration has to come with not only with green vegetation, like I have mentioned about one of the particular grass, why it has become champion, more than 120, 30 countries taken from us. Yoga got spread across the globe. Now we have to take certain measures that use this grass, not in combination with the technology that we are having, especially in hill construction, lightweight construction. We cannot use the bamboo biodegradable, but we can use always some of the steel frame, light gauge steel frame, galvanized iron frame, which life is more than 50 years and performance is guaranteed. Weight is less than 1/3 of the concrete. So less the weight, less vulnerabilities due to earthquake and landslide both. So resilient construction now, we have to shift to this kind of new material. In one of the presentation, I think it was mentioned also that various kind of material like glass wool is there. They are very good comfort in between cement board, bison board that we call. So there are several types of materials are there. So we have to customize such kind of material in case of hill construction, keeping it to 2-story, 3-story, 4-story, 5-story. It doesn't matter as long as it is able to transfer the load to the hill, whatever may be the slope. So resilient construction has to go towards taking care of, especially for our Himalaya, keeping earthquake and landslides into mind, and then doing the analysis and design, and then proper supervision and during construction, what are the connections to be made and how connections are good enough to take the earthquake shaking, as well as that due to less load, earthquake induced load on the building also will be reduced, and we know their performance are very good. Moreover, in the hilly area, not only building construction, while during road construction also, we make in number of places retaining wall, gravity weight retaining wall, gravity retaining wall, which are not at all suitable. When this kind of new construction, soil nailing or even shotcreting, then bio nailings are also there, then we have to reduce the load on the slope. And in order to reduce the load on the slope, we have to treat a slope, even if it is vertical, we have to treat them in a various technique together. Each slope and site will be behaving differently. So experts have to look into this, that not only that it is only greenery we have made, but whether the roots has gone beyond the failure that which is being analyzed by software like in our civil engineering slope analysis. It has to go beyond that. Moreover, our know-how about this slope behavior is always evolving, and the kind of construction, side-by-side constructions that we are making without keeping any gap, and already hill is so much loaded with construction side by side, where there is no scope for refurbishing them or retrofitting them or repairing them. There is no space are there. So most of the hill area habitat that we are making, they are not feasible to retrofit, feasible to improve their behavior. Added with that, codal provisions are becoming more and more stringent because now Himalayan zone will be taken into a much higher earthquake zone. So already so much buildings are there, establishments are there, dams are there, tunnels are there. But BIS code has been upgrading this codal provision more stringent. Entire northeast area, now it will be much higher earthquake load building has to make in a new construction. So there is a big responsibility. Of course, responsibility will be there, but we are really helpless and hopeless in dealing with the existing structure which are already in distress, and along with that new codal development that going up. So resilient or sustainability will be really in questions when we want to implement some of the measures basically given in the code now.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Professor Ghosh.
Thank you. Colonel Shailesh Pathak, any last words before we close the session?
Ji ma'am. So I was expecting really more people, but still by end of our event, still I'm so thankful that our attendees are 25 in numbers. I want to thank all panelists. Sir, I'm extremely lucky today we could address these things because the recent disaster happened in Himachal was really sad. And all construction which in tourist places is happening is really very haphazard. Sometime back, I was talking about a water shortage in Shimla, and I said there's a water shortage in Shimla. one consultant gave me such a nasty reply that it is indiscipline, it is lack of planning. Otherwise, rain god gives us so much water. If we can save that water, we can not only we can see entire year, we can give water to so many people. The way those videos where buildings are falling like a pack of cards, they all are selfish interest, unplanned work without giving proper thought. So today, if we are able to ignite, if only 10 minds, if we can sensitize our participants, I think we will be really lucky to have this thing. Tomorrow also we are having the same series, some others presenters. So I request all attendees, uh, please come back again tomorrow. And this is really nice. Future lies in a making green buildings. Future lies in a sustainable buildings architecture. And on behalf of our all attendees, on behalf of IGBC Chandigarh chapter and entire fraternity of IGBC, I welcome Dr. Pradhan, Professor Ghosh, Major General Manoj, and all those who have left in between, Architect Jit Kumar Gupta ji. Thank you very much. And we shall be wherever need, we shall keep on sharing this information so that India grows and India is a successful and a green country. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Wish
you
you all
all the
great.
panelists. Thank you all the attendees for today. And we all hope to see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock for the day 2 event where we are speaking about the mountain livelihood and disaster risk reduction.
I request
And
the
my
speakers to
my
also
thanks
join for
will
the
be,
tomorrow session if
wait,
they have
wait,
time. Please join.
Saurabji, my thanks will be incomplete if I don't thank you, Ashpita and Saurabji. So you
Thank you.
organized conducting. I was a bit busy here and there, but still. So thank you very much. Without the support of secretariat, we people at the chapter level can't do much. So thank you very much. We look forward to same support always. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
For
you.
a greener
Thank you,
hill
everyone.
in our all the hill states. Thank you, Mr. Pradhan. Thank you, Mr. Ghosh. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Parak. Bye. We're logging off. Thank you, Bindal sir. I think you are not there. I'll disconnect you.